and 21 pence. Just don't miss out as lines close on the 26th of June.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camila Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News. Hello, are you the famous Sue?
The whole crew hit me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Phew, what a scorcher again. Hope you're having a very cool and happy Friday afternoon. Good afternoon, 3 p.m. Welcome to the Moss and Daubney Show here on GB News, passing for you until 6 p.m. We've got a sizzling show, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story today. The Labour Party has today announced plans to expand the use of barracks to accommodate more than 5,000 asylum seekers. Well, GB News will today speak with outraged locals and exclusively reveal how the Refugees Welcome Labour Party is dumping asylum seekers on seats where Labour has zero chance of winning. Are they the ultimate NIMBYs? No illegals in my backyard hypocrites.
It's already a national issue in my view, and if you haven't got a camp next to you, they'll be living next to you or they'll be on your doorstep. So I don't think anyone can be free of this. The only people who are free are the politicians.
And more immigration chaos as today. The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood looks set to water down visa rules for care workers. Now that could mean 280,000 Boris Wave care workers and their dependents will be eligible to stay in Britain forever from next year. Is this a taste of open borders Burnham?
Then called me a yeah, I'm a bad man. Then he then started recording me. Obviously, then I've just pushed him a lot. He's then grabbed me, then started grabbing my turban, pulled my hair, started grabbing my hair, or started punching me.
Yes, dramatic, startling, heartbreaking new body cam footage is released of the moments that Henry Nowak's killer, Vikram Digwa, repeatedly lied to the police, telling them his dying victim was racist, drunk, and hadn't been stabbed. Astonishing. And rapists, killers and sex offenders are among 6,000 criminals set to be released early from jail from September. Killers will only have to serve half of their sentences to help empty our packed prisons. But here's the question: is David Lammy's soft justice endangering lives? And a Nuneaton mum who could only eat potatoes for 40 years has been cured of her food phobia by hypnosis. Rachel Hall chowed down on chips, jacket spuds, roasties and mash from the age of 2. But now she has found a new love: melons and bananas. I'll be joined by the reformed spudaholic for today's finale. Do you ever get the feeling you've been cheated? Do you ever get the feeling politicians say to us we should all be welcoming to asylum seekers, we should all sing Kumbaya and light candles and be welcoming and open our doors to anybody in need overseas? And then today, we see 5 army barracks in 5 constituencies where the Labour Party has got zero chance of winning a seat. No Labour MPs will be getting barracks in their backyard. But the working class voters of Britain will. They'll be scratching their heads and looking at this and thinking, hang on a minute, how come you keep telling us we should be so welcoming, and yet they're never in your neighbourhood? They never compete for a school place, never make your children feel dangerous. Are they the ultimate hypocrites? No illegals in my backyard, the NIMBYs, through the woke mindset, telling us we should accept a problem that we voted against time and time and time again, and yet it never lands up in their backyard. I'll have the full expose of the incredible hypocrisy at the heart of the asylum relocation process across Britain in today's show. Also speaking to locals in those areas, I want to hear your views. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. Scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's the wonderful Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you very much. The headlines at 4 minutes past 3. Today is now the UK's hottest June day on record, with 36.9 degrees Celsius recorded in Suffolk, beating yesterday's highest temperature of 36.7 degrees Celsius in Somerset. That's according to the Met Office. The forecaster adds that temperatures are continuing to rise, and a red weather warning for extreme heat remains in place until 9 o'clock tonight. Elsewhere, a wildfire broke out in Derbyshire amid the heat wave. Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service says about 990 acres of land was affected by the fire, adding, at present, we're being supported by the Rapid Relief Team and have sufficient supplies to deal with the issue. Elsewhere, King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024-25, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. Meanwhile, the King and Queen will not live at Buckingham Palace once the £370 million taxpayer-funded refurbishment work has been completed. The palace will continue to be the administrative headquarters of the monarchy, but the King has decided nearby Clarence House will remain his official home. The decision has been taken to allow greater public access to the landmark, according to officials. The Home Office is attempting to use 3 more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house about 3,750 asylum seekers if planning permission is granted. The government is also looking to extend the use of existing military sites in Crowborough in East Sussex until 2030 and Wethersfield in Essex beyond 2027. New footage has been released by the CPS showing Henry Nowak's killer, Vikram Digwa, speaking to police directly after the murder. The footage showcases Digwa repeatedly lying to officers about the incident.
I said, so I was literally just walking there and I seen him. He's then barged into me. I've said to him, look, clearly, mate, you're drunk. I could smell, like, you can smell the alcohol.
Vikram Digwa was jailed for life with a minimum of 21 years for the murder of the 18-year-old student after stabbing him multiple times last December. And the British Embassy in Caracas has been damaged after Venezuela was hit by 2 powerful earthquakes that killed at least 589 people and left thousands injured. The Foreign Office say the embassy, which is on the 11th floor of an office tower in the northeast of the city, has been closed. Wednesday's 7.2 and 7.5 magnitude quakes were among the strongest to hit Venezuela for more than a century and could be felt throughout the region. At least 50,000 people are reported missing, and the UK government is providing £2 million to help with the emergency response. Those are your latest GB News headlines. A quick look at the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.32 and €1.16. The price of gold is £3,079 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,430 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Katie. Top story today. 5 former military bases are set to be used to house more than 5,000 migrants as the Labour Party ramps up its efforts to shut all asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament. The Home Office, however, faces the backlash from locals, a furious backlash also from politicians and refugee charities who claim the rural locations are inappropriate for hundreds of asylum seekers. Well, they're inappropriate for the locals. Let's go now to Charlie Peters, our national reporter, who is in there at Bicester for us, and also GB News' reporter Isabel Fakulak, who's in Crowborough, 2 of the areas, of course, impacted. Charlie Peters, let's start with you. Bicester suddenly into sharp relief. The Liberal Democrat MP there, Callum Miller, until recently was very refugees welcome. He seems to have changed his tune.
Well, Martin, speaking to GB News earlier today, he said it was inappropriate not only for local residents but also for the asylum seekers as well. But that's not the message I've heard on this high street here in Bicester, as locals have learnt today and last night that some 1,250 asylum seekers, majority of them crossing illegally on small boats, will soon be put up in these disused MOD bases in Bicester. There's a large site there used mostly for logistics since the Second World War. Some 750 armed forces personnel work on that base. I've heard concerns from local residents today, Martin, about the fact that many of the areas, the villages around Bicester near to that MOD site, have asylum seekers living in HMOs around them, which is impacting their local community. Some, indeed, armed forces personnel living side by side with Afghan asylum seekers, which has created some tension, particularly if some service personnel had served in Afghanistan. Now, we've also been speaking to locals here at the trade stalls here, closing up for the day. And earlier I spoke with Georgina, a local to Bicester, who told me about some of the impacts and behaviours that her community had endured.
The locals have really, a lot of locals want to move because they feel that there is a huge amount that have come in. Their way of living is very different. I think they can integrate, but of what I've noticed is that to start with, it is very challenging. So there will be challenges. If you have high numbers in one area, that does become a problem. I've seen how, to start with, how difficult it has been. With like girls getting smacked on the bottom and by older, like 9-year-olds, by older teenagers, and that being acceptable. And also there was a point where men were sort of congregating, so late at night, like midnight. The locals have really, a lot of locals want to move because they feel that there is a huge amount that have come in.
Well, those extremely concerning reports there shared with us by Georgina. Those men and the families involved in those areas are living in HMOs. This sudden surge of 1,250 in a military base next to villages of just 200 or 300 people around will surge concerns already felt by residents in those areas. But the government say they've got to do it, Martin. They say Alex Norris, the Border Security Minister, said that they're taking a control of a problem with the government previous, that they've got 20,000 in hotels. They want to get that down, of course. Only 170 left those hotels that are being used. But there are 70,000 asylum seekers. Again, most of them illegally crossing on small boats, living in other forms of accommodation around the country. And just finally, Martin, we can also say earlier today, the Home Affairs Select Committee Chairman, Karen Bradley, she's written a letter to Alex Norris expressing concern that the press, we were informed yesterday afternoon of these plans coming out, that the press had been told before politicians. And you've heard Sir Lindsay Hoyle also expressing anger at that situation yesterday. Alex Norris will be expected to respond to that letter, but I can tell you that the Home Office has insisted that they spoke to local councils before these decisions were made. No matter how it's been done and who's been told, residents here in Bicester, they've expressed frustration and concern about what is soon to happen to their rural communities here.
Charlie Peters, fantastic reports, and so concerning there to hear Georgina's just too afraid to walk around at night. You know, the political class have no idea what they're doing to our country. They don't consult. There's no voice. There's no veto. There's no way of kicking back. Charlie Peters, thank you very, very much indeed for being there for us today in Bicester. Now let's get to GB News' reporter Isabel Fakulak, who's there in Crowborough for us. Isabel, welcome to the show. Crowborough, of course, very familiar to GB News listeners and viewers. We've been following this one for a long time. It's at the bottom of people's gardens. They can simply wander around the area. 350 expanding to 450. They were sneaked in the middle of the night. Locals were never consulted. They're furious. And today, Isabel, it got worse.
Yes, absolutely. Good afternoon to you, Martin. In that announcement today, the Home Office confirmed that the Crowborough site that has been used to house hundreds of asylum seekers, the use of that will now be extended to 2030. I've been speaking to residents all day here who say that they feel a mixture of anger and disbelief. Of course, they've been protesting against that use of the site week in, week out. They now feel that those protests and their voices have not been heard. You can see I'm joined by residents from Crowborough, Lorna and Lily. Guys, what was your reaction to the news today?
I'm disappointed, really. I mean, we've been sort of thinking they were probably going to do something like this because they've spent so much money on it. They weren't ever just going to use it for a year. But to actually hear it confirmed is just really... They don't care about us at all. They don't care about our families or anything.
And Lily, what do you think to the news?
I mean, yeah, we all knew it was coming, but I'm honestly shocked that they actually went forward with this because they know that the majority of Crowborough don't agree with these people being in the camp, but yet they still go against us anyway.
And Lily, you're a 14-year-old girl, you live in Crowborough, you go to school in Crowborough, just walk away from the camp. How do you feel about having hundreds of undocumented men just on your doorstep?
I'm scared that, like, whenever I come out of school, they're going to be across the road watching everyone come out. And, like, I feel like one day me or other people my age are just going to be watched by these men.
And that feeling gives you a sense of insecurity, and you're at the age where you want that bit of freedom to go out and enjoy yourself. You can't do that.
No, I can't. I have to walk the longer way to school now. I can't walk into the town much anymore by myself. I have to really go with friends or parents, and I can't even really go to the park unless there's my friend's parents there.
Thank you so much for coming on and speaking. And Lorna, you're a part of Crowborough Says No. This is the group that's been organising these protests week in, week out, every week, giving up your Sunday mornings. Do you feel like your voices have been heard?
I think that we have made a difference. This week's the 34th one. We've had 2 weeks where we haven't done it. I think we've slowed things down. If it wasn't for us doing everything we've done, I think it would have been full a long time ago. Because I'd think that no one cared. But I think that even though they're hearing us, they don't particularly care what we feel and what we want. And it just takes away all your trust in any sort of government, no matter who it is. I'm not sure what to believe anymore, what they tell us stuff.
Thank you so much for coming on, both of you. Of course, I've been speaking to so many residents. They've been raising concerns we've just heard there about public safety for our women and our children. Also concerns about house prices, people refusing to pay council tax because they don't believe that their houses have any more value, and also concerns that the army barracks used here were never actually vacant, that they were used for cadets, and that those cadets no longer have the training facilities that they need. So lots of concerns here, lots of reaction on the ground to the news today. The Home Office confirming that the Crowborough site will be extended, its use will be extended until 2030.
Isabel, thank you. Please extend my thanks to Lorna and especially to Lily there. It's very, very difficult to listen to this. You know, 14-year-old girls are afraid to walk to school. It's really, really challenging, isn't it? OK. Isabel, thank you. I was saying, you may have heard me sort of speak. Thank you, Isabel. We'll come back to you later in the show. You may have heard me speaking there. I was speaking my mind. I was just saying they should send all the politicians to places like that and make them listen to schoolgirls like Lily and make them understand the fear, the genuine impact this is having on their lives. This is not racism. This is not being far right. It's wanting a safe community. It's wanting to have a voice. It's wanting to be listened to. It's wanting Britain to be the Britain we remember. This is not extremist. It's actually the norm. And I just think the political class is completely out of touch. Completely out of touch. I think worse than it's ever been. Worse than it's ever been. Let's move on now to my next bit. I've been doing some analysis of where these bases are. Let's take a little look, shall we, at exactly where these military bases that are set to house more than 5,000 migrants are going to be located. But look, the first is in a Conservative constituency. That's the former RAF base at Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire. Now, I've been there. It's a tiny village with a chip shop and a post office. That's it. And they're on about slapping 500 geezers in the middle of that. There'll be more asylum seekers than people that live there. It's completely inappropriate. And if you don't think I'm right, Shabana Mahmood, Keir Starmer, Andy Burnham, get yourselves down there, as I did. Go and take a little look. Now, the next proposed asylum camp is an MOD Bicester, where Charlie Peters was, a military site built in the Second World War. Now, that's a Liberal Democrat MP's constituency, and that's Callum Miller. Now, Callum Miller had previously written a letter in 2025 to the Asylum Council saying we should be tolerant. We should be welcoming, the Asylum Welcome Letter, calling for unity and compassion. Well, today, he said, actually, I'm wondering if this is the right place to have these people. My instincts are shock and worry about whether this is right for our community. Next is RAF Barnham in Suffolk. You've guessed it, a Conservative constituency. It was previously used as a secret atomic bomb storage site during the Cold War. Now, the Home Office is also looking to expand the use of the existing former military sites, including Wethersfield in Essex, that will go from housing 800 to 1,200 migrants. Now, guess who's the MP there? That's right. It's the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch. That's her constituency. Another Tory constituency. Crowborough in Sussex will also be expanded to house more migrants. And you've guessed it, another Conservative Party constituency. So 4 of the military barracks set to house asylum seekers are in Conservative Party constituencies. Tory voters ostensibly voted against this, but they've been shafted. And the other is in a Liberal Democrat patch. Well, if you're open borders, lads, ladies, and you suddenly get an asylum barracks in your patch, maybe that's calmer. But in each case, Labour has very, very little chance of winning in any of those seats. And here's my question to you today. Are they hypocrite NIMBY hypocrites. No illegals in my backyard, so long as they go somewhere else. So it's somebody else's problem. Well, in North Yorkshire, where the former RAF-based Linton-on-Ouse is, Labour have just 12% chance of taking the seat from the Tories. In Bicester, Oxfordshire, Labour are predicted to have a 0% chance of winning the seat. In Suffolk West, where RAF Barnham is, Labour has a 1% chance of taking the seat from the Conservatives. And Kemi Badenoch's patch, where RAF Wethersfield is, the Labour Party are predicted to have just 5% chance of winning. And in Crowborough, Labour have a 1% chance of winning. The numbers are stark. Olivia Utley is with me in the studio, GBNews' political correspondent. When you look at the data like that, when you listen to people like Lorna, like Lily, like Georgina, who are scared, deeply concerned about what's coming, what is in their patch, and then you look at the metrics, and this is never a Labour Party parliamentarian's problem. A lot of people look at this and think, this stinks.
Well, there are lots of residents who are very, very angry indeed, and that anger is echoed among specifically Conservative politicians. The MP for Staffordshire Moorlands, Karen Bradley, who's also the chair of the MP which scrutinises the Home Office, has written a letter to the Home Office saying, why was this announced in the press and not put before the House? And very interestingly, has specifically said what plans do the government have to make this more equal politically, if any? And that is, of course, the huge question. As you say, it doesn't seem like a coincidence that the 5 places where these army barracks are being placed, only one of them is in a Labour constituency. All the others are in opposition seats. Now, the government would argue that it has managed to cut down the use of asylum hotels, and just a year ago, that was the issue that we were talking about all the time. In those cases, we had residents complaining not only about the safety problems for their children, especially young girls on the streets, but also the massive economic impact. There were hotels which, instead of taking custom for conferences, weddings, etc., events that would bring lots of money to the area, those hotels were being filled with migrants instead. Now, you could argue, and the Labour government does argue, that these barracks make a little bit more sense than that. But often the issue is that these barracks are in, as you say, much, much smaller communities. So whereas a hotel might be in Maidenhead or London, a big area which can, to some extent, manage to absorb those migrants, some of these places are absolutely tiny. In Bicester, where this RAF barracks is being placed, there are going to be over 1,200 migrants housed there. The village next door has just 375 people. How are those migrants going to access the food, the GP services, etc., that they are going to need? That is going to be a really, really difficult one for the local community. It's very difficult for the government, and I think everyone can acknowledge that. Whichever way they look, there is no easy place to house these migrants. Shabana Mahmood is trying to push through the immigration bill that is going to the Commons next week. If that were to pass in the Commons, it would set up some sort of deterrent features. For example, people who come here would have to double the time that it takes them to get indefinite leave to remain, 10 years instead of 5. That bill, though, is going to face a lot of opposition among Labour MPs in the House of Commons. So it often feels with this as though we're going 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But until we stop the migrants coming over here, then there is going to be this issue of where to house them, and no answer is really satisfactory.
You know, Olivia, I'll never forget, in 2022, shortly after lockdown was lifted, I went to Linton-on-Ouse because Rishi Sunak at the time had proposed that Linton should be used. I sat in a kitchen with a mum and a daughter, and they were crying their eyes out about the fact that they would be sharing their village, population of about 250, with 550 asylum seekers. The boy was on the learning spectrum and it wasn't leaving his room. The daughter was too afraid to go to school. Now, that plan in the end was canned by Rishi Sunak. And I can't tell you the relief and the joy from those families who were just afraid about what was going to come, unknown men, and they're all men. And I just really, really think this is bringing into sharp relief. We might have a new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. We've got the same old problems. Unless this party gets a grip of it, they're finished. Just like the Tories were.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see what Andy Burnham does if and when he becomes Prime Minister, who he puts in that position of Home Secretary. Shabana Mahmood is trying to push through, you know, as a Labour government goes, relatively radical, hardline immigration policies. At every turn at the moment, she is being blocked by her backbenchers. Andy Burnham has said now, although he has had doubts about Shabana Mahmood in the past, now he's on the cusp of becoming Prime Minister. He said that he agrees with the thrust of her immigration policies. Will she be allowed to remain in the Home Office? And if she is, will that department be beefed up? Will Andy Burnham have a word with those backbench Labour MPs who Keir Starmer was unable to control? If so, then perhaps the party can get some kind of a grip on immigration. Or will he move her out and replace her with someone much softer from the soft left of the party, which is where he belongs? You know, someone like Angela Rayner, someone who's much more interested in open borders, in which case we could see this problem getting worse. It'll be fascinating to see what he does.
And that's the point. We don't know the direction of travel. I guess there's some we'll find out. Olivia Utley, superb. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, the Border Security and Asylum Minister Alex Norris has told GB News this. We promised to close every asylum hotel and hand them back to communities, and that is exactly what we are doing. 20 more hotels have closed and hotel numbers have more than halved since their peak. Instead, we're moving asylum seekers into ex-military sites that are a far cry from the hotels the last government left us with. This is a system being brought back under control and will not stop until the job is done. Well, still to come. Killers, rapists, sex offenders. They'll be among up to 6,000 criminals freed early from prison from September. Coming to a neighbourhood like you. Is this what you voted for?
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:29. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, up to 6,000 prisoners, including killers, rapists and sex offenders, could be released in stages early from jail as of September under government plans to ease overcrowding in prisons. Well, joining me now in the studio, I'm delighted to say, is the former Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis. Sir Michael, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Here we go again.
Oh,
here we go again.
This is a disgrace. Look, being in government is about leadership and it's about making decisions. And this government has decided they don't want to invest in the prison estate. They don't want to invest in the criminal justice system. What they want to do is to give more money to welfare. They want to tax people and put more money into welfare. So they've made a decision that instead of investing in the prison estate and instead of investing in criminal justice and the courts, what they want to do is just get people out of prison quicker. That will then cost the taxpayer less. It's a decision to be soft on justice in order to give money elsewhere.
And a lot of people looking at this will realise that a criminal jail for a total of 15 years for manslaughter or for rape, it would mean that they will be freed under this new system under 7.5 years rather than 10, so serving half rather than 2/3 their sentence. So it's soft justice.
It is totally soft justice. So for decades, the situation has been if you've got a sentence of more than 4 years imprisonment, you would serve 2/3. If you've got a 15-year sentence, you'd serve 10 years, and the remaining 5 years you'd be on prison licence, which means that you were susceptible to being returned to prison in those last 5 years if you committed any offences. Now they're reducing that from 2/3 to a half. And, of course, it's going to mean that people are out of prison in very quick order, and they may well be finding that their victims are on the street with them.
And so, Michael, criminals convicted of burglary, theft, assault and repeated shoplifting, we know it's a scourge, repeat shoplifting, they'll be freed in as little as a third of their sentences versus the current 40%. What kind of deterrent is that to people who are robbing, stealing, beating people up and on serial shoplifting sprees?
Yes. So if someone is given a 9-month sentence in the magistrate's court for repeated shoplifting, and that's pretty rare, by the way, they would only serve 3 months inside at that rate. And there is no incentive for recidivist offenders to stop offending, because the other point is that this government has made it very difficult with its sentencing rules for judges to send people to prison in the first place for shorter sentences. It's almost impossible now for a judge to send someone to prison for less than 12 months because all of the guidelines and all of the criteria militate against it. So it's hard enough to get people into prison, and now when they have been got into prison, they're out after a third of their sentence for the minor offences.
You and I speak often of things like the broken window scheme in New York. If every small crime is clamped down upon, then the bigger crimes don't manifest themselves. If people aren't going into jail in the first place, or if they do after repeated offences, they waltz out in weeks or months, the whole system falls apart.
Well, the whole point is there has to be a deterrent effect to sentencing. This isn't about a lack of mercy. I believe in looking mercifully at each case and exercising judgment rather than some sort of automatic sentence. Yes, of course. But once somebody has committed dozens of offences and dozens of shoplifting episodes, it's quite clear nothing is going to stop them from offending except getting them off the streets and giving the law-abiding society a break.
Well, the first 700 offenders will be freed in September, then 700 every month for the next 9 months, and no doubt that will just be the tip of the iceberg. So Michael Ellis with me for the rest of the show. Always agree. Always a pleasure to have you company. Thank you very much indeed. Now let's move on. It's time for your latest news headlines, and here's Katie Bowen.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 3:34. Today is now the UK's hottest June day on record, with 36.9 degrees Celsius recorded in Suffolk, beating yesterday's highest temperature of 36.7 degrees Celsius in Somerset. That's according to the Met Office. The forecaster adds that temperatures are continuing to rise. Elsewhere, King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024-25, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. The Home Office is attempting to use more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house about 3,750 asylum seekers if planning permission is granted. And the British Embassy in Caracas has been damaged after Venezuela was hit by 2 powerful earthquakes that have killed at least 589 people and left thousands injured. The Foreign Office say the embassy, which is on the 11th floor of an office tower, has been closed. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More news at 4 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good afternoon, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do still have a red extreme heat warning across parts of the southeast today, with an amber one going out for eastern areas tomorrow. It's because, well, whilst there is fresher air coming into parts of the country through the next 24 hours, eastern areas are clinging on to that hot air, and residual heat means it's going to stay uncomfortably hot and humid for a little while yet. Another big talking point, however, the thunderstorm risk across northern parts of England, Northern Ireland through this evening, and across the bulk of Scotland overnight. Some torrential downpours, frequent lightning and hail. They could cause some problems. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, just some showers pushing into parts of the southeast through the earlier hours of tomorrow morning. Still warm and humid here, temperatures staying above 20 Celsius, perhaps slightly fresher, more comfortable towards more northern and western parts. Then tomorrow morning, a bit of a cloudy start across much of Scotland. Some glimmers of sunshine across the northeast perhaps, but yes, a lot of cloud, a few outbreaks of rain, not as heavy, not as thundery as what we're going to see through the end of the day and through much of the night. Across Northern Ireland, a few shower bursts of rain, particularly towards the west, perhaps brighter further east, and down the western side of England and Wales, bit of cloud, bit of rain further east. Largely sunny, some decent sunshine, but a few showers perhaps lingering across parts of East Anglia in particular. Through Saturday then, we are going to stick with a bit of a northwest-southeast split, so northern and western parts staying pretty cloudy. There will be outbreaks of rain at times. Further south and east, largely dry, largely sunny, but a few showers will start to push into some southeastern parts later on in the day. It is still going to be pretty hot across some eastern parts of England as well. Temperatures not as high as they have been, but nonetheless getting into the low 30s Celsius. A bit more comfortable, a bit fresher towards the north and west. There is more showery rain to watch out for through the end of the day tomorrow, particularly in the southeast. Here it could turn heavy, maybe even thundery at times. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A1 northbound in Nottinghamshire between the A52 and junction 46 has 50-minute delays. The M25 anti-clockwise in Kent between junctions 3 and 2 has 30-minute delays. A vehicle fire on the M54 westbound in Staffordshire between junctions 2 and 3 has closed one lane with 50-minute delays. The M4 eastbound in Wiltshire has a blocked junction 16 exit slip road causing disruption. The A590 eastbound in Cumbria has 10-minute delays. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway is disrupted between London St Pancras International and Bedford due to hot weather. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 3:38. With me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, brand new footage has been released by the CPS showing Henry Nowak's killer, Vikram Digwar, speaking to police directly after that horrific murder. Now, the footage showcases Digwar repeatedly lying to officers about that incident, and let's take a listen.
I said, so I was literally just walking here and I've seen him. He's then barged into me. Okay. I've said to him, look, clearly, mate, you're drunk. I could smell, like, you can smell that alcohol. I was like, look, mate, you're drunk. Carry on with your day, innit? He's then called me a Yeah, I am a bad man. Then he then started recording me. Obviously, then I was just saying that I pushed him a lot. He's then grabbed me, then started grabbing my turban, pulled my hair, started grabbing my hair, was like punching me and all this sort of stuff.
Okay.
And then
do you know how he's got that wound then? How's he got that wound?
What wound, sorry?
Well, you said he's got blood on him. How's he got
It must have been where he punched him, but he did fall over here, so he was climbing all over these bins and stuff like that. And then he fell over and then landed onto that car.
Okay. Thought, mate, all right, at this time, I'm arresting you on suspicion of attempt murder. Okay? Huh? You don't have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned something which you may later rely on court. Anything you do so may be given evidence. Okay? The necessities are for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay? And for any further harm and injury. You've got your side of the story, mate. We don't know what's going on here. Okay? So we need to find out. Okay?
You know, it's absolutely chilling, that footage. Because you have to remember that while that scumbag, that murderer, was lying through his teeth repeatedly and besmirching the character of Henry Nowak, he was dying on the pavement behind the officer. That's what happened. And it took 8 minutes, we've learned, for Henry to be checked for a stab wound, while Vikram Digwar is just lying and lying and lying about everything. It's absolutely chilling. Former Attorney General Michael Ellis, you're still with me in the studio. Just when it couldn't get worse, it has.
It's the calmness, it's the cool, calculated calmness that you can hear there. These body-worn cameras are actually a great help, retrospectively looking back, for juries and for the public to see what actually police officers do have to put up with and have to deal with. And that's why, of course, police officers very often should go to the scene of an incident not really believing anything except the evidence of their own eyes. But here we have, in cold blood, these calm, calculated lies. Now, of course, lying to police officers can be an aggravating feature. First of all, it can be an offence in itself, but it can also be an aggravating feature attached to a separate offence. That can increase a sentence. And one of the things that's happening, of course, in the Digwar case is that it is being sent to the Court of Appeal as a potentially unduly lenient sentence.
And I wonder if this footage will be an addendum to that will underline its undue leniency, because the lying is not only grotesque in of itself, it delayed Henry Nowak being treated and helped. And the police maintained from the beginning, no matter what they did, they would have been unable to save his life. But 8 precious minutes were lost before Henry Nowak was even checked for a wound. And he was clearly bleeding to death on the pavement while this scumbag was lying and lying and lying.
It is an appalling case, and I think the pathologist has said that the wound that he sustained, or one of the wounds that he sustained multiple penetrative wounds, but one of them was not survivable. But the fact is that instead of having words of comfort, the last words we think he heard were the words that he was under arrest and he was put in handcuffs whilst on the gravel ground. Look, I think, yes, these sentences can be increased. The Court of Appeal will have this footage. They'll have all of the evidence that the lower court had. They're going to have to make a determination based on the use of the knife, the carrying of the knife in the first place, and all of these incidental features, and decide whether the original sentence was sufficient in all the circumstances.
So, Michael, the CPS have released this footage. This is now a fait accompli. Digwar is in prison. He's serving life for murder. What's the reasoning, would you say, behind them making the choice to put this out there? Because it's harrowing. It inflames public tensions again. Why have they done it?
That's rather difficult to say. My best guess would be that they've done that now because they didn't have the necessary consents, or they weren't sure of the legal position, whether they might need the evidence to be kept private until such time as all proceedings had concluded. That would be my guess as to why they've released it now. But technically speaking, the proceedings will be revisited because the Court of Appeal, 3 senior judges in the Court of Appeal, at some point in the months ahead, are going to revisit the sentence in whole and see whether the judge passed the correct sentence.
And it's worth pointing out...
I have my doubts.
Yes. It's worth pointing out, of course, that the IOPC investigation is still ongoing into the officer's conduct.
That's another factor.
And it did appear, to be fair, without wishing to prejudice anything, that the police officer there was very calm.
He certainly was
calm. And he read the
yes.
situation correctly. But unfortunately, the manifest and provable lying of the murderer just delayed everything critically.
Yes, and that's why it's such an aggravating feature to an offence. And clearly, if it stops police officers from acting in the way that they would have done had they known the truth, then that is a serious aggravating feature. And I think the judge in the lower court did make that determination, but he passed a sentence mostly on the basis of the carrying of the knife that is contestable and is controversial and is something that is the main feature of an appeal that both the Conservative Party and the Reform Party, I think, have appealed. Well, they wrote to the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, who did authorise, or the Solicitor General authorised this to go up to the Court of Appeal.
So, Michael, I've said this to you before. I want to ask you again, off the back of this footage. When somebody plays the race card, as happened here, and it's provably a lie afterwards, should that be an offence in itself? You've claimed something was racist, it wasn't, you're a liar. Maybe that, if that was an offence, it might stop people like this lying.
Well, it's important for people to know that that can already be an offence.
Yes.
Whether it's charged or not is another matter. But when you lie to a police officer, you can either be charged with obstructing a constable, which is a minor level offence, but still carries a short term of imprisonment or a fine as possible. But you can also be charged with perverting the course of justice. And if you say something happened when it didn't happen, and that causes somebody to be falsely arrested or causes the police to take a course of action that they wouldn't have taken, you can be done for perverting the course of justice. That's a really serious offence. The courts come down like a ton of bricks on that. And even a young person with no previous convictions will go to prison if they are convicted of perverting the course of justice.
Maybe that's what we need to start doing. If you make a claim of racism and it's a fabricated lie, you get a bang on the wrist straight away. So, Michael, thank you for sharing your immense knowledge. Thank you very much indeed. It's always an absolute pleasure. Now, coming up next, the record for the hottest June day has once again been broken, this time for the third day in a row. And don't we know it? As temperatures have soared to 36.9 degrees centigrade. But are we overreacting?
Well, this record-breaking heat wave is proving too much for some people in London. Many telling me today here in central London that the city, the capital, simply can't cope with these kinds of temperatures. So if that's how you feel and you perhaps want to go away on holiday where we can deal with these warm weathers a little bit better, well, let's have a look at what the weather's doing in Europe. Here are your top travel destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to the weekend, and the historic heat across some parts of Europe will continue. Over more southern areas, it's not as exceptionally hot here, but nonetheless, it will feel pretty hot with all the sunshine around. Worth bearing in mind, we have high humidity as well, and with the hot and sunny weather, that will allow for a few showers to develop, and if they do, they could turn heavy and also thundery. But generally, the theme is for lots of dry, sunny weather to come as we go through into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The final preparations before a world first. At RAF Wittering in Cambridgeshire, these JCB mechanics and engineers are attempting to rewrite history, chasing a world land speed record with a hydrogen car. The JCB Hydromax puts out 1,600 horsepower, powered entirely by two hydrogen-fuelled internal combustion engines. The 32-foot-long vehicle is trying to beat JCB's existing record, which was achieved with a diesel engine back in 2006. It reached a speed of over 350 miles an hour. For chairman of JCB Lord Bamford, the new car is about pushing the boundaries of new technology.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Father's Day has long been a fixture in the family calendar. But as household budgets remain under pressure, some are questioning whether the tradition of buying gifts is beginning to fade. Jim Cox has worked in the gift-giving industry for more than 30 years, and says Father's Day simply isn't the draw it once was.
We're kind of reliant on the big gifting period. Father's Day is probably the weakest of like the bigger gifting events. It's picked up a bit this week, but probably not as much as I would expect. And I think generally people, like average basket size isn't really where I'd want it either. So I think people are spending a bit less, being a bit careful, and also thinking general trend in gifting is thinking maybe about experiences and spending time with people.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What does it do for people who are wounded, injured or sick veterans? What does it do for them to do this sort of voyage on this wonderful sailing ship?
Good morning. It is that human impact, and that's why Turn to Starboard exists, and even at the Invictus Games Birmingham 2027. It's about giving people maybe a reset, maybe seeing, taking that breath, but also a bit of camaraderie as well. Literally everybody's in the same boat. The blue environment is completely different. Everything is different on a boat. Walking, sitting down, making a cup of tea, even going to the loo is slightly different. So it can give people a break from sort of the pressures of life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 10 to 4. Phew, what a scorcher with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the June heat record has been broken for the third day on the bounce, with a temperature of 36.9 degrees centigrade being recorded in Suffolk. And the Met Office has warned that temperatures are still rising, where GB News' national reporter Will Godley is bearing the heat in the park there in London. Will, you must be wilting out there.
I feel like I am, Martin. It is hot out here, 34 degrees here in Hyde Park in central London, but that is nothing compared to Suffolk, where, as you say, today that June heat record broken again, 36.9 degrees recorded there this afternoon, an absolute scorcher. This is a record that wasn't broken for 50 years. That was until this week, where it's been broken for the last 3 days in a row. And on Wednesday, on the first day of this heat wave, I was down in Brighton Beach. People there enjoying the sunshine on the beach, sunbathing, swimming in the sea. The atmosphere here, though, in central London, markedly different. People shade bathing rather than sunbathing, wanting to cool down, stay out of the direct sunshine. The temperatures here in the city a little bit too much for people, and people today been complaining to me that London simply isn't equipped to deal with these kinds of temperatures, pointing out that the underground is too hot, trains aren't running properly, and it's just very uncomfortable. Take a look at what people have been telling me today.
London's not a nice place to be when it's so hot. It's just way too sticky, and the heat has no place to escape. It's unbearable at every level, frankly. So the answer is no, it's not great.
Too much.
Is it?
Yeah, can't sleep. Yeah, it's just overpowering.
Too much. Well, we're not used to it, are we? That's the problem with it.
I do love the heat, but it's just hard not being able to cool down because there's no air conditioning. So
And it's not just people experiencing the heat telling me how difficult it is. Even the London Ambulance say they've experienced in this heatwave a record-breaking number of life-threatening call-outs. So clearly people struggling in the heat. Martin, the advice from the chief executive of the London Ambulance Service today is, if you're going out to the pub this evening or into tomorrow, have a pint of water in between every pint of beer. So I've got my water. I'm only missing my beer, Martin.
Will Godley, I know you're trying to pass good knowledge on, but that's... Will, you got a drinking problem there, mate. You're spilling it all. I know you're only trying to be helpful. The pints of water between the pints of beers, I know, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go straight for the ice-cold lager. Westminster Arms, 2 minutes past 6. Will Godley, stay cool. Thank you, as ever, for your input. Superb stuff. Now stick with us, because still to come, the Labour Party has today announced plans to expand the use of barracks to accommodate more than 5,000 asylum seekers. But I'll show you, they are the NIMBY hypocrites. No illegals in my backyard. 5 out of 5 of these barracks, none of them are in Labour Party areas, all of them in areas where the Labour Party has zero chance of winning. Is that more than just a convenience? Are they complete open borders hypocrites? That's next here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do still have a red extreme heat warning across parts of the southeast today, with an amber one going out for eastern areas tomorrow. It's because, well, whilst there is fresher air coming into parts of the country through the next 24 hours, eastern areas are clinging on to that hot air, and residual heat means it's going to stay uncomfortably hot and humid for a little while yet. Another big talking point, however, the thunderstorm risk across northern parts of England, Northern Ireland through this evening, and across the bulk of Scotland overnight. Some torrential downpours, frequent lightning and hail. They could cause some problems. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, just some showers pushing into parts of the southeast through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Still warm and humid here, temperatures staying above 20 Celsius, perhaps slightly fresher, more comfortable towards more northern and western parts. Then tomorrow morning, a bit of a cloudy start across much of Scotland. Some glimmers of sunshine across the northeast perhaps, but yes, a lot of cloud, a few outbreaks of rain, not as heavy, not as thundery as what we're going to see through the end of the day and through much of the night. Across Northern Ireland, a few shower bursts of rain, particularly towards the west, perhaps brighter further east, and down the western side of England and Wales, bit of cloud, bit of rain further east, largely sunny, some decent sunshine, but a few showers perhaps lingering across parts of East Anglia in particular. Through Saturday then, we are going to stick with a bit of a northwest-southeast split, so northern and western parts staying pretty cloudy. There will be outbreaks of rain at times. Further south and east, largely dry, largely sunny, but a few showers will start to push into some southeastern parts later on in the day. It is still going to be pretty hot across some eastern parts of England as well. Temperatures not as high as they have been, but nonetheless getting into the low 30s Celsius. A bit more comfortable, a bit fresher towards the north and west. There is more showery rain to watch out for through the end of the day tomorrow, particularly in the southeast. Here it could turn heavy, maybe even thundery at times. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M8 eastbound at junction 23 is limited by a broken down vehicle. The M6 southbound in Cumbria between junctions 44 and 43 is closed due to a collision, expected to clear by 5:30. North Yorkshire's A1M northbound has 2 lanes closed between junctions 52 and 53. In Nottinghamshire, the A1 northbound has 50-minute delays. The M54 westbound in Staffordshire is closed after a vehicle fire. Kent's M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 3 and 2 has 20-minute delays. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway and the Elizabeth Line face major disruption due to hot weather. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camila Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First of all, say welcome to the UK.
Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Phew, what a scorcher. We're breaking records on the temperature this afternoon. Good afternoon and happy Friday. It is 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's sizzling show. Top politics today. The Labour Party has today announced plans to expand the use of barracks to accommodate more than 5,000 asylum seekers. And GB News will today speak with outraged locals and exclusively reveal how refugees welcome Labour Party is dumping asylum seekers on seats where the Labour Party has zero chance of winning. Are they NIMBYs? No illegals in my backyard, hypocrites.
It's already a national issue in my view, and if you haven't got a camp next to you, they'll be living next to you or they'll be on your doorstep. So I don't think anyone can be free of this. The only people who are free are the politicians.
Yet more immigration madness as the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood looks set to water down visa rules for care workers. Now that could mean that 280,000 Boris Wave care workers and their dependents will be eligible to stay in Britain forever from next year. Is this a taste of what's to come under Open Borders Burnham?
Then called me a yeah, I'm a bad man. Then he then started recording me. Obviously, then I've just then I pushed him a lot. He's then grabbed me, then started grabbing my turban, pulled my hair, started grabbing my hair, or started punching me.
And dramatic, outrageous new body cam footage is released of the moments that Henry Nowak's murderer, Vikram Digwar, repeatedly lies to the police, telling them his dying victim was racist, drunk and hadn't been stabbed. What should be done next? Superb. We'll have a full analysis here in the studio. And a change of tone. A Nuneaton mum who could eat only potatoes for 40 years has been cured of her food phobia by hypnosis. Rachel Hall chowed down on chips, jacket spuds, roasties and mash from the age of 2. But now she's found a new love, melons and bananas. I'll be joined by the reformed spudaholic for today's finale. And we've only gone and done it again. We've broken another record for the all-time high June temperature. Just coming to me here, 37.1 degrees. That's the 4th record that's been broken on the bounce, as that barometer just goes up and up and up. The mercury is soaring 37.1 degrees centigrade. That is a new British record for June. The temperatures are also soaring across the nation. In 5 constituencies have found out that military barracks will house 5,000 asylum seekers. An exclusive analysis done by this show today will reveal to you not a single one of those areas has a Labour parliamentarian. Not a single one of those areas has any chance of Labour winning a seat in a general election. One of those seats is that of Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition. Is this a coup? Is this a stitch-up? Is this politically motivated? The voters have no choice. They have no say. They're the voters who've said time and time and time again, let's take back control of our borders. Well, the Labour Party has taken back control of where they're putting those asylum seekers, and it's in those constituencies. It's an outrage. I'll have full details and analysis on the show throughout the rest of this afternoon. Get into its usual ways. gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so. Scan the QR code on your screens now. Stay as cool as you can be. And to help you, here's your headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 3 minutes past 4. As you've been hearing, a provisional temperature of 37.1 degrees Celsius has been reached in Suffolk, setting another record for June. That's according to the Met Office. The forecaster adds that the temperatures are continuing to rise and a red weather warning for extreme heat remains in place until 9 o'clock tonight. Elsewhere, a wildfire broke out in Derbyshire amid the heat wave. Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service says about 990 acres of land was affected by the fire, adding at present we're being supported by the Rapid Relief Team and have sufficient supplies to deal with the issue. Elsewhere, King Charles has disclosed he paid £12.9 million in tax for 2024-25, becoming the first monarch to reveal their tax bill. The level of tax paid by the King puts him in the top 100 of UK taxpayers. Meanwhile, the King and Queen will not live at Buckingham Palace once the £370 million taxpayer-funded refurbishment work has been completed. The palace will continue to be the administrative headquarters of the monarchy, but the King has decided nearby Clarence House will remain his official home. The decision has been taken to allow greater public access to the landmark, according to officials. The Home Office is attempting to use 3 more military sites to house asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house about 3,750 asylum seekers if planning permission is granted. The government is also looking to extend the use of existing military sites in Crowborough in East Sussex until 2030 and Wethersfield in Essex beyond 2027. New footage has been released by the CPS showing Henry Nowak's killer, Vikram Digwa, speaking to police directly after the murder. The footage showcases Digwa repeatedly lying to officers about the incident.
I said, so I was literally just walking there and I've seen him. He's then barged into me. I've said to him, look, clearly, mate, you're drunk. I could smell, like, you can smell the alcohol.
Vikram Digwa was jailed for life with a minimum term of 21 years for the murder of the 18-year-old student after stabbing him multiple times last December. And the British Embassy in Caracas has been damaged after Venezuela was hit by 2 powerful earthquakes that killed at least 589 people and left thousands injured. The Foreign Office say the embassy, which is on the 11th floor of an office tower in the northeast of the city, has been closed. Wednesday's 7.2 and 7.5 magnitude quakes were among the strongest to hit Venezuela for more than a century and could be felt throughout the region. At least 50,000 people are still reported missing. The UK government is providing £2 million to help the emergency response. Those are your latest GB News headlines. A quick look at the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.32 and €1.16. The price of gold is £3,090 per ounce and the FTSE 100's at 10,489 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Katie. Top story this afternoon. 5 former military barracks are to be used to house more than 5,000 migrants as the Labour Party ramps up its efforts to shut down all asylum hotels by the end of the Parliament. The Home Office, however, faces a huge backlash from outraged locals, from politicians and even refugee charities who claim the rural locations are inappropriate for hundreds of asylum seekers. Well, let's now speak with our GB News reporter, Isabel Fakulak, who joins us from Crowborough. Isabel, welcome back to the show. Crowborough, of course, we've followed this story very closely here on the channel. A barracks at the end of People's Gardens. As many as 450 asylum seekers, all men, could well be in there. They were shipped in under cover of darkness. The locals had no voice, no veto, no say, and today it got worse.
Yes, Martin, good afternoon to you. Of course, Crowborough has been at the heart of this row over asylum accommodation. Today, the Home Office made that announcement that they're going to convert 3 more army barracks across the country into housing for asylum seekers. The site here, though, that was announced at the end of last year that they would use that to house asylum seekers. Since then, of course, there's been huge backlash here in Crowborough. Protests week in, week out, every Sunday. They're about to have their 31st 4th protest. They will not give up, they will not stop until their voices are heard. And today I've spoke to so many residents who feel like they've been ignored. They have some serious concerns. Of course, the main concern is public safety, specifically safety of women and children. We spoke earlier to a 14-year-old girl who said that she was afraid that when she came out of school, there would be groups of men there watching her. There's also concerns about house prices, many residents refusing to pay their council tax because they say that the value of their houses has diminished completely and that they're unable to sell, and also concerns about the lack of consultation, as you say, these decisions being made without consulting the community here, and their lack of information ahead of announcements like today's. Many residents say that there were murmurs and rumours that the site, the use of the site would be extended till 2030, so they're not surprised. They are, however, angry and in disbelief, some say. I spoke to many residents. Take a look at what a few of them have said.
I mean, we're all expecting that really to go across the country. You know, they've pledged that they want to shut all the hotels by the end of the term, 2027. Of course, they're just going to move the pieces from one place to another and do nothing about the real cause of the problem.
It comes as no surprise to me at all, Isabel. I was kind of expecting that anyway. The Home Office have constantly let us down, let the community down. Yeah, it does come as no surprise to me.
So as you can see, not much of a surprise to residents here. Another concern is about the misinformation. They said that the army barracks was vacant. However, a resident told me off camera that it was used for army cadets who now have no place to train. So also an issue there. Well, as you heard, residents here very upset. They will continue to protest week in, week out until they feel that their voices have been heard.
Thank you very much, Isabel, joining us from Crowborough. I was very moved in the previous hour when you spoke with Lily, the 14-year-old schoolgirl who's changing the way she walks to school because of what's happening. We'll try and get that clip so we can show that again in the next hour. Isabel, thank you very much for joining us today from Crowborough. Let's move on now to Linton-on-Ouse and speak with Dr. Olga Matthias, who is a member of the Linton-on-Ouse Action Group. Dr. Matthias, welcome to the show. It's a difficult day for you. I was in Linton-on-Ouse in 2022, the last time. It's not the first time this has been proposed. Of course, Rishi Sunak did this, but it was dropped after a huge backlash from an organised campaign by you guys in there in Linton-on-Ouse. Before we talk about the ramifications, can you explain to our viewers and listeners just how inappropriate this site is? I mean, you've got like a post office and a chip shop, right? And that's it.
Not even a post office and a chip shop. In 2022, we had a recently reopened pub that only opens a few hours a week, and we had a village shop. Now the village shop closed not long afterwards, so we've got a pub. That's it.
So you've got one pub, you've got an army barracks, and they're talking about putting how many people into the barracks and how many people live in the village, just to contextualise the scale of this.
So 1,500 people, as you can see at the bottom of that photograph, there are houses. So this former RAF base is in the village. It's not on the outskirts, it's not in the country, it's in the village. Back in 2022, there were about 600 people in the village. Annington Homes, who owns or runs the former MOD houses, which are pictured in there, they've been refurbished, and the houses that are on the perimeter, they actually have a wire between them and the base. That's it. So the houses are there, they're on the base, and there are 800 people now, I'm told, which is still more than double that the Home Office is planning to plant in a village. It's completely disproportionate, as it was last time.
And Olga, just to be absolutely clear about this, and this is common with Crowborough and with everywhere else, there'll be no containment on the site. I've been to the site. So the men, let's face it, they're all men inside, can simply wander across the perimeter, wander around the village. And when I was in Linton back in 2022, I sat down with mothers and daughters in kitchens in your beautiful village, and they were crying their eyes out about the prospect of there being literally twice as many asylum seekers as there are locals.
Yes. Yes. I mean, the whole point of our protest, if you like, our action group in 2022 was to demonstrate it was actually Boris Johnson's government, not Rishi Sunak, but to demonstrate the unsuitability of the site. That unsuitability has not changed, not for the villagers, not for the surrounding villages, and actually not for the asylum seekers. Look at that photograph. What will they do? Buses are 2 hours, every 2 hours into York. They're small buses because obviously they service a small population. And the last bus from York is at 5 o'clock. Ridiculously, the Home Office previously proposed that they would run a minibus service. Well, I mean, there are 8 seats on a minibus for 1,500 people. Put your name down on the list and you can maybe get the minibus to York once a year. Fabulous, you know?
It's almost funny, but it's not. For you, it's a deep concern. And tell me, if you can, Olga, about some of the concerns of residents, particularly, young schoolgirls.
Well, it's not just young schoolgirls. It's absolutely everyone. The police are deeply concerned and have been for all kinds of reasons. I mean, already today, when I was in the village earlier this morning, there was a police car there and 2 policemen were walking up and down. Generally speaking, we have no police presence. That's not a criticism of the police. That's because we're a peaceful place where nothing happens, which is brilliant. We like where nothing happens. There's a safeguarding general issue about the community. There's complete failure of duty of care by the government in thinking about this. The healthcare is maxed out. Sewage, again, it's all the things from before. The sewage, there was a sewage leak last week. How will that work if the system is beyond capacity now when you put twice as many people in? So, you're increasing the population by huge amounts. It's just, it doesn't make sense. And Labour, might I add, were hugely against and very critical in 2022 and said it was probably the most ridiculous thing they'd ever heard. And here they are wanting to be seen to do something regardless of how stupid the idea is. I mean, frankly, if it wasn't a goer 4 years ago, it's not going to be a goer now, where the site has been completely decommissioned by the MOD. There's no power on the site. The kitchens have been ripped out. Bathrooms have been ripped out. Everything. It's now even more of a wasteland than it was in 2022.
OK, Dr. Olga Matthias there, the member of the Linton-on-Ouse Action Group. Thank you for joining us today. I suspect we'll be having you on the show more and more in future. Love to you and all your people in the village. It's a beautiful place. It really, really is. Now, back to the location of these sites. Let's take a look at exactly where these military bases that are set to house more than 5,000 migrants are. Well, the first is in a Tory constituency, the former RAF base at Linton-on-Ouse there, as we just saw, in North Yorkshire. Another proposed asylum camp is MOD Bicester, a military site built in the Second World War. Well, that's in a Lib Dem MP's patch, Callum Miller. Previously, he was refugees welcome. Not so much now. Then there is RAF Barnham in Suffolk, and that again is a Tory constituency. It was previously used as a secret atomic bomb storage site during the Cold War. Now it's become a political bomb. Now, the Home Office is also looking to expand the use of existing former military sites, including Wethersfield in Essex. That will go from housing 800 to 1,200 migrants. And guess what? That's the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch's constituency. And Crowborough in Sussex will also be expanded to house more migrants. You've guessed it, another Tory constituency. So 4 of the military barracks set to house asylum seekers are in Tory constituencies, and the other is in a Liberal Democrat patch. But in each case, the Labour Party has very little, if any, chance of winning a seat. Let's take a look. In North Yorkshire, where former RAF based Linton-on-Ouse is, Labour have just a 12% chance of taking the seat from the Tories. In Bicester, Labour has 0% chance of winning a seat. In Suffolk West, where RAF Barnham is, the Labour Party has a 1% chance of taking the seats from the Conservatives. And in Kemi Badenoch's patch, where Wethersfield is, the Labour Party has just a 5% chance of winning. In Crowborough, the Labour Party has a 1% 5% chance of winning. Is this all just a coincidence, or is it a political stitch-up? That's a chat we'll have in the studio now. I'm delighted to be joined by GB News' political correspondent, Olivia Utley, and the former Attorney General for the Conservative Party, Sir Michael Ellis. Olivia Utley, when you look at the details, the metrics, when you see the constituencies there, when you speak to the locals, this was a terrible idea in 2022. It's still a terrible idea today, but it seems now to be politically motivated.
Well, it does look a little bit suspicious when you break it down by area and constituency. Of the 5, 4 are Conservative-held seats with Conservative or at least opposition-run councils, and the 5th is a Lib Dem seat. The government would probably argue that that's just where the barracks are, and a few years ago the Conservatives too were talking about putting an RAF, using a base in Linton-on-Ouse, which is a Conservative-held area, for migrants. So there is an argument that it isn't politically motivated. Whether it's a bad idea or not, another big important question. The government would argue that it's better than hotels. They're trying to end the use of hotels. And although with these barracks you get the same issues of people being in communities which simply can't house them and the safety concerns that come with that. Another issue which was coming up again and again with hotel use was that those hotels could be used for other things. So, for example, weddings, conferences, etc. Those events brought big economic benefits to the community, which were completely removed when the migrants came to the hotels. So there is an argument that these barracks, which are unused, are a better use of taxpayer money than the hotels. That said, it is very important that, as Olga was detailing there, you are getting exactly the same issues with these areas, in fact, often in much more rural areas than hotels, being overwhelmed, totally overrun. She was talking about Linton-on-Ouse, a population of a couple of hundred, over 1,000, over 2,000 migrants that suggested to be housed there. You have exactly the same problem in Bicester. It is the services, the GPs, etc., the sewage. But also, what will these people do? These are very, very, very rural communities. Obviously, they're illegal migrants. They're not able to work. They will be hanging around, and that makes people feel unsafe. At the moment, Labour's argument is essentially, well, this is the best option that we've got. Shabana Mahmood is trying to push ahead with her pretty controversial immigration reforms, which would make it harder for migrants to claim indefinite leave to remain in the UK. She's hoping that will be some sort of deterrent and will stem the flow of migrants coming over here. We are expecting a lot of opposition from her, from the backbenches over this. And of course, at the moment, Keir Starmer's government is in office, but not really in power as we wait for Burnham to take control. So we're not expecting that bill to succeed in the near future. Until there is some sort of deterrent in place, each successive government is going to have to answer the question of where these migrants should be housed.
Thank you, Olivia. Sir Michael, when you look at the list of constituencies there and the locations, 5 areas, 4 of them Conservative, including the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Baynor, do you think this seems politically targeted?
Well, Martin, I've been listening to your reporting here and Olivia's reporting here on GB News, and I think that this may be a judicially reviewable decision. I think the government has opened themselves up here to being overturned by the High Court. If you recall, the government made political decision to try and postpone 30 local government elections just before the May locals, and the Reform Party took that to judicial review, and I seem to recall they won. Here, I'm very suspicious about the choice of seats, and I hope that the government has done its homework and made sure they've got a proper rationale for this, because it doesn't seem to me that there is a proper rationale. You've got over 400 Labour seats around the country and only just over 100 Tory seats. How is it that none of these migrant centres are going to be put in a single Labour constituency or a seat that they ever have a chance of winning? They've got form for doing this. They make political decisions based on their own electoral prospects, and they dress it up as a governmental decision that is rational and appropriate. Well, how is it rational and appropriate to put hundreds of asylum seekers in a place with only a couple of hundred residents? How is it suddenly miraculously the right thing to do now when Labour themselves were saying in 2022 it was totally the wrong thing to do? So I think they're in trouble. If someone litigates this, they're going to have a case to answer.
So you're the former Attorney General of the Conservative Party. This is meat and drink to you, this kind of thing. So in your esteemed knowledge, the Tories have got a case here. They could cause some serious trouble.
Well, anyone would have a case. I mean, if they have an interest in the matter. So, look, if this is going to devalue the homes of residents living in that area, which it probably would do, then I think it is susceptible to review. Obviously, one would have to look at all the details that, you know, and all the sheafs of paperwork and make sure that we had all one's ducks in a row. But on the face of it, why is it that all of these 5 locations are in non-Labour areas? It's Labour that keep pushing that they want to do this. They're the ones that stopped the Rwanda project from even being given a chance to work. All their MPs, or pretty much all of their MPs, say, oh, we want to have this open policy with migrants, so they have to have the consequences of it. And what they're doing here is trying to push it off elsewhere. That's what needs to be explored, because if it's irrational, if it's inappropriate, it's susceptible to review. And Labour are going to have a difficulty. If they were arguing 4 years ago, this is a crazy place to put this, and now they're saying, oh, it's the right place to put it. How can they explain that?
Fascinating stuff, and certainly one to watch. So, Michael S., thank you very much, and Olivia, utterly superb as ever. Thank you to you both. Now, the Border, Security and Asylum Minister Alex Norris has told GB News this: we promise to close every asylum hotel and hand them back to communities, and that is exactly what we are doing. 20 more hotels have closed, and hotel numbers have more than halved since their peak. Instead, we're moving asylum seekers into ex-military sites that are a far cry from the hotels the last government left us with. And there is a system being brought back under control, and we will not stop until that job is done. Now, still to come, dramatic, harrowing, it really is devastating. New body cam footage has been released of the moment that Henry Nowak's killer, Vikram Digwal, repeatedly lies to the police as Henry Nowak lay dying on the pavement. Full analysis of that next, here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel. At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time.
But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:29. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, brand new harrowing footage has been released by the CPS showing Henry Nowak's murderer, Vikram Digwar, speaking to police directly after that murder. The footage showcases Digwar repeatedly lying to officers time and time again about the incident. Let's take a listen.
I said, so I was literally just walking there and I seen him. He's then barged into me. And I've said to him, look, clearly, mate, you're drunk. I could smell, like, you can smell the alcohol. I was like, look, mate, you're drunk. Carry on with your day, innit? He's then called me a yeah, I am a bad man. Then he then started recording me. Obviously, then I've just then, like, I pushed him a lot. He's then grabbed me, then started grabbing my turban, pulled my hair, started grabbing my hair, or started punching me and all this sort of stuff.
Okay.
And then
do you know how he's got that wound then? How's he got that wound?
What wound, sorry?
Well, he's got. You said he's got blood on him. How's he?
It must have been where he punched him, but he did fall over here, so he was climbing all over these bins and stuff like that. And then he fell over and then landed onto that car.
Okay. Thought, mate, all right, at this time, I'm arresting you on suspicion of attempt murder. Okay? Huh? You don't have to say anything. It may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned something which you may later rely in court. Anything you do to maybe giving evidence. Okay? The necessity for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay? And for any further harm and injury. You've got your side of the story, mate. We don't know what's going on here. Okay? So we need to find out. Okay?
Not only is that footage of a despicable liar, a murderer, a traitor of the country, let's be frank, but while he was spinning those yarns, those fabricated lies, Henry Nowak was lying on the ground, dying, bleeding out. So, Michael Ellis, let's bring you in now. It's incredible this footage has been released by the CPS, and I think we should commend them on that, because it helps us to understand a murder that's really, really chilled the nation. But when you see the cold, calculated, repeated, pathological lying of the murderer there, it sends a chill down the spine.
It does, and that's why lying like that to police officers who are investigating a serious crime is in itself a serious offence. And if it isn't charged as a separate offence, which it can be, it's an aggravating feature to another offence that may have been committed. So when a person lies to a police officer, they can be charged with obstructing a constable in the exercise of his lawful duty. That carries a maximum penalty of 3 months imprisonment. But if you lie in such a way that you cause somebody else to be wrongly arrested, or you interfere with justice in such a way that you create extra work for the police in a significant fashion, you can be charged with perverting the course of justice. That will carry a prison sentence, even for a young person with no previous convictions. The courts will come down like a ton of bricks on it. That's why, in this particular case, the Digwar case, we look at it and we say, was the sentence appropriate in all the circumstances, the murder sentence? And if it wasn't, the Court of Appeal should be looking at it. The Attorney General's office has decided that the Court of Appeal judges should look at this as a potentially unduly lenient sentence. One of the factors is about the knife and why that was being carried, but another factor might be how much aggravating feature was the lies. Now, the IPC investigation is currently underway, and I must add that I think the officer speaking there was very calm and dealt with the situation very well. Yes. But that's a piece of the evidence. But the lies delayed any help Henry Nowak got. Now, the police said from the beginning that the severity of the fatal wound was such that they couldn't have ever saved Henry Nowak. But, Sir Michael, when you watched literally time dripping away as Henry Nowak's life dripped away, you just can't help but feel a burning outrage that he was lying as Nowak was dying. Yeah, and Henry Nowak was lying in a pool of his own blood with handcuffs on, and the last thing he heard were the words of caution and that he was under arrest. Look, I think it is an appalling case, a horrifying case, and what we need to do is to understand that in a case like that, yes, the pathologist has said that the wound, one of the wounds that Henry suffered, the stab wounds, was such that it was unsurvivable, but he could have been given some comforting words. He could have been held rather than arrested in a kind and comforting way. That was denied him, and that is a serious aggravating feature to this case.
You know, it's really moving when you say that. He could have been held and comforted.
Someone could have hugged that lad rather than have him in handcuffs, and that wasn't to be. And it's not all about the police. As you've identified, Martin, when the police are lied to like that, and it's dark and it's late at night, they don't know what's happened in the circumstances, we have to understand that there could be a number of explanations, and we have to just explore what happened.
OK, thank you very much, Sir Michael. Now, still to come, will new Labour proposals force Brits to read woke and lefty news? Well, I reckon they will. But in the meantime, here's some news that's not woke and lefty. It's Our Headlines with Katie Bowen.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 4:34. A provisional temperature of 37.1 degrees Celsius has been reached in Suffolk, setting another record for June, according to the Met Office. The forecaster adds that temperatures are continuing to rise and a red weather warning for extreme heat remains in place until 9 o'clock tonight. Elsewhere, the Home Office is attempting to use more military sites to house thousands of asylum seekers as the government seeks to move people out of hotels. 3 Ministry of Defence sites in Oxfordshire, Suffolk and North Yorkshire could house about 3,750 asylum seekers if planning permission is granted. The British Embassy in Caracas has been damaged after Venezuela was hit by 2 powerful earthquakes that killed at least 589 people and left thousands injured. The Foreign Office say the embassy, which is on the 11th floor of an office tower, has been closed. And a brief breaking update. John Bolton, US President Donald Trump's former national security advisor, has pleaded guilty to unlawfully retaining classified information today during a federal court hearing in Maryland. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More news at 5 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good afternoon, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do still have a red extreme heat warning across parts of the southeast today, with an amber one going out for eastern areas tomorrow. It's because, well, whilst there is fresher air coming into parts of the country through the next 24 hours, eastern areas are clinging on to that hot air, and residual heat means it's going to stay uncomfortably hot and humid for a little while yet. Another big talking point, however, the thunderstorm risk across northern parts of England, Northern Ireland through this evening, and across the bulk of Scotland overnight. Some torrential downpours, frequent lightning and hail. They could cause some problems. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, just some showers pushing into parts of the southeast through the earlier hours of tomorrow morning. Still warm and humid here, temperatures staying above 20 Celsius, perhaps slightly fresher, more comfortable towards more northern and western parts. Then tomorrow morning, a bit of a cloudy start across much of Scotland. Some glimmers of sunshine across the northeast, perhaps. But yes, a lot of cloud, a few outbreaks of rain, not as heavy, not as thundery as what we're going to see through the end of the day and through much of the night. Across Northern Ireland, a few shower bursts of rain, particularly towards the west, perhaps brighter further east. And down the western side of England and Wales, bit of cloud, bit of rain further east. Largely sunny, some decent sunshine, but a few showers perhaps lingering across parts of East Anglia in particular. Through Saturday then, we are going to stick with a bit of a northwest-southeast split, so northern and western parts staying pretty cloudy. There will be outbreaks of rain at times. Further south and east, largely dry, largely sunny, but a few showers will start to push into some southeastern parts later on in the day. It is still going to be pretty hot across some eastern parts of England as well. Temperatures not as high as they have been, but nonetheless getting into the low 30s Celsius. A bit more comfortable, a bit fresher towards the north and west. There is more showery rain to watch out for through the end of the day tomorrow, particularly in the southeast. Here it could turn heavy, maybe even thundery at times. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M8 eastbound at junction 23, delays are building due to a broken down vehicle at Dumbreck interchange. The M6 southbound in Cumbria between junction 44 and 43 has one lane closed after a collision, with normal conditions expected this evening. The M11 northbound at junction 6 in Essex is congested, causing 10-minute delays. On the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent, congestion causes half-hour delays between junction 3 and 2. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and East Midlands Railway face disruption, with no services between Manchester-Oxford Road and Warrington Central. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Your time is 4:39 on this sizzling Friday afternoon. You with me, Martin Daubney. Now, time now, brace yourselves for our brand new Great British Giveaway and your chance to join in with our Golden Summer Celebration. Your chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash plus a real gold bar on top worth £5,000. That's gold that you can keep or give to a loved one to secure their financial future. Who would not want that? So here's the details that you need for a chance to make this golden prize yours.
We're celebrating a golden summer with a terrific two-part Great British giveaway. First, you could win a sensational £60,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like this year. What would you do with that? And that's not all, as you'll also win our most precious prize to date, a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. It's pure gold to own, trade or gift to a loved one and secure their financial future. So make sure you don't miss your chance to bank over £65,000 worth of prizes in our Golden Summer Celebration. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck with that. Now then, government proposals to give prominence to so-called trusted news outlets on social media has now raised fears that they could be forced to promote woke or even left-wing stories. What a surprise. Let's now speak with the former BBC presenter, the legend, Danny Kelly. Danny, it's been way too long, my friend. Welcome back to the show. Look, as soon as this came out and they started saying, oh, we need to have trusted news services, I thought, well, they are trusted if you're in the Labour Party, because the BBC, ITV and all the rest of them, they want to be shoved at the promenade, as it were. They support their agenda.
Of course, I had a baptism of fire, Martin. I spent 18 years at the BBC, and in the first couple of months, I was writing up a news report, West Midlands Police on the lookout for a street attacker, a violent robber who was a black guy, and they gave a description of what he was wearing. So I wrote up the article, ready to read it out on the news bulletin, but I was told to remove the guy's ethnicity. So as far as West Midlands Police were concerned, they were putting an appeal out for a white lad. And so that was a baptism of fire, and I was told that that was racist. And fast forward many, many years to the Brexit referendum, when people were openly crying in the office, and 2019, Boris Johnson's success getting Brexit through Parliament. And then people would naturally, because you and I have bias, Martin, everybody has a bias, but the problem is at the BBC is that that bias inevitably seeps out. And it's natural, and it does seep out. And people need to understand that. For example, the bias is slightly more subtle than a political heavyweight being interviewed by the BBC. They'll both be getting a grilling. Everyone will have their feet held to the fire. But the bias is subtle in the sense that great news stories about remaining in the European Union were pushed to the front of the queue of the news bulletin. This is going back to 2019. And bad news story about leaving the European Union, they were pushed to the front of the queue. And that's where the bias comes out, Martin. And so what is the definition of a trusted news organisation? When I told my wife, Danielle, I was talking to you about the BBC and the definition of a she burst out laughing. She said, Donald Trump, the Middle East, you've got the trans group who are dictating how the BBC actually does its journalism when it comes to LGBTQ+ and all of that. So the BBC hasn't got a great reputation at the moment.
Danny, If there were to be a change of government, and just say, I don't know, Reform UK became the governing body, what would the BBC staff base be like? And more to the point, might those trusted stories of the BBC be doing all they can to destroy trust in Reform UK? Because if Reform got in, the BBC would be in big trouble, wouldn't they?
Yeah, the BBC be toast. Farage has already said that he's going to remodel it with a subscription service. You've got 22,000 people whose livelihoods depend on the BBC paycheck every month. And if Reform was going to win the election, I promise you now, Martin, those bad news stories about Farage and those good news stories about this new charismatic kid on the block, Andy Burnham, the Everton fan, the Scouser, they would be pushed to the front of the queue. Listen to me, I promise you now, if the BBC were under real threat and intense scrutiny about a Farage, a potential Reform government, they'd be like rats fighting in a sack, Daubs. They'd be fighting for their lives, mate.
You know, Danny Kelly, I think you're right, but then again, you usually are. Thank you very much. And you had to squeeze Everton in, didn't you, mate? Anyway, always a pleasure to see you, mate. It's a pleasure to have you in the company. You might know you go, Danny Kelly. Now, the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, has rejected concerns, saying the definition of public service broadcasting is set out in law. But trustworthy news is a separate matter. And that is precisely why we have asked the question. And she added, it is still the most trustworthy source of news, not just in this country, but across the world. Now, coming up next, will Panama be panned? Well, all eyes are on the Three Lions tomorrow as England looks to secure victory and finally limp through this round into the next groups. Get past the groups, lads. Let's get on with it. Up next, I'm joined by the legend, Peter Shilton, CBE. But meanwhile, if you've some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of your top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to the weekend, and the historic heat across some parts of Europe will continue. Over more southern areas, it's not as exceptionally hot here, but nonetheless, it will feel pretty hot with all the sunshine around. Worth bearing in mind, we have high humidity as well, and with the hot and sunny weather, that will allow for a few showers to develop, and if they do, they could turn heavy and also thundery. But generally, the theme is for lots of dry, sunny weather to come as we go through into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we know, in a democracy, you're free to choose how you want to celebrate. And this is right on brand for Donald Trump. He loves to be a big spectacle with any celebration he does. He wants it to be big. He wants it to grab headlines. And clearly right now he wants to show strength. So it's a tactical decision as well. As we know, there's a very unpopular war going on with Iran. And he's hoping to announce a deal tonight, which would be the greatest birthday gift he could get, because we do need a deal. But it's only Donald Trump who would choose to do this. A lot of the people who follow UFC voted for him, and he's being tactical ahead of midterm elections, trying to show strength.
GB News, the People's Channel. Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
5 years ago from today, I got to meet my absolute hero, Nigel Farage, and rub shoulders with Dan Wootton and Andrew Neil, the latter being particularly grumpy. He was less than impressed as well when the sound failed during his first broadcast. The lighting was dreadful. I looked mouldy, and at one point I was practically invisible during a breakfast show because of a black backdrop behind me. I was little more than eyes and teeth. We faced obstacle after obstacle, including Stop Funding Hate, an activist group that set about trying to destroy us before we'd even broadcast a single second. Advertisers were frightened off, and hostility towards the channel was actively encouraged, which was deeply ironic. But still, we persisted. If anything, it made us more creative and more resilient.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Ian McKellen is helping relaunch the Yard Theatre up in Hackney, which reopens this summer, with a new purpose-built 200 capacity auditorium. Tiny, but he'll be doing a brand new version of King Lear. Up in Scotland, Alan Cumming has taken over the Pitlochry Festival. And I just want people to know that all these small theatres, number one, it's not such a big risk. Ticket prices are £30, £35, £40, top price. And you can find less than that. So you can take a risk, but you'll go along and you'll experience something. You'll be part of something. And I am a huge fan of what we get in the West End. It's world class, but it is a lot of money. And it's sometimes just a little bit predictable or complacent or safe, I would say. Not always, but sometimes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, breaking news for you now. Significant breaking news. Mohammed Amaz has been sentenced to 3.5 years for being found guilty of attacking 2 police officers and a member of the public at Manchester Airport in July 2024. I'm in the studio with the former Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis. Sophie Reaper, our reporter. We'll get to her as soon as she is ready. Just repeat, that's breaking news. A significant national news story. In fact, Sophie Reaper is now ready for us at their Manchester Crown Court, Liverpool Crown Court, beg your pardon. Sophie Reaper, significant breaking news story. Bring us up to speed.
Well, Martin, Mohammed Amaz appeared this afternoon at Liverpool Crown Court via video link from HMP Liverpool, speaking only to confirm his identity and the fact that he was able to hear the court. Now, last month, a jury here at Liverpool Crown Court was unable to reach a verdict on one particular charge that was faced by both Amaz and his elder brother, Mohammed Ahmad, and that meant that ultimately they were listed as not guilty for that one particular charge, and his elder brother, Mohammed Ahmad, walked free. However, last summer, a separate jury found Mohammed Amaz guilty on 3 different counts of assault, and today, as a result of that, he was given a sentence of 3.5 years, 42 months in prison, and at which point, once he has served those 3.5 years, he will then be released on licence. Now, this afternoon, we heard some victim statements from 2 of the officers who were affected by that attack by Mohammed Amaz, one of which was Sergeant Lydia Ward, whom suffered a broken nose at the hands of Mohammed Amaz. She told him, "I've never been so scared. It was absolutely terrifying. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm forever reminded of what you did to me. I fear for the women in your life. I want you to know that I'm not weak. You used me as a punching bag, but I will get back up. You deserve no more of my time." Then we moved on to the sentencing remarks from the presiding judge, Justice Fluitt, who went through the 3 counts of assault that Mohammed Amaz was found guilty of. And he ultimately told Mohammed Amaz that he would be spending 3.5 years in prison. He did take some time off that due to what he called immaturity and age, but ultimately 3.5 years behind bars, Martin.
Incredible update there. The footage on the screens there is self-evident. You know, this is a case that's absolutely captivated the nation. A violent assault. The police officers themselves under some retribution for their actions, but the evidence itself was manifestly clear from the outset. It's a case of huge public interest. Found guilty. Just to repeat that, 3.5 years for Mohammed Amaz there, sentenced after being found guilty just now of attacking 2 police officers and a member of the public at Manchester Airport in July 2024. Thank you very much, Sophie Reaper, for bringing us up to speed. We'll come back to you for more details in the rest of the show there. Thank you, Sophie, for joining us from Liverpool Crown Court. Sir Michael Ellis, you are now taking this in real time. The video footage on the screen, they absolutely shocked the nation, an appalling assault on a WPC. People will immediately be saying 3.5 years. Is that fair? You're the former Attorney General. In terms of the tariff that could have been doled out, does this seem like justice?
Well, they've been convicted of assault occasioning actual bodily harm, ABH, which is a lesser offence to the GBH that viewers will have heard of. Under Section 47 of the Offences Against the Person Act 1861, that carries a maximum penalty of 5 years imprisonment. And there are, I think, a couple of counts of ABH, another count of common assault, which is a lesser offence. But this is aggravated, of course, by the fact that there was no guilty plea here. So this was after a trial. Also that it took place in a very public arena, namely an airport, which is a high security environment. It also occurred in front of members of the public, including children. That's another aggravating feature. And officers in uniform were assaulted with lasting injuries. And it is stomach-churning to see police women assaulted in that way. But the maximum penalty for the ABH offence is 5 years imprisonment. The judge has given 3.5 years in this case. And viewers will have to make their own conclusions about that. But you can even see in the blurred out footage that's on camera now, you can see enough that there's a small child right there. The fact is that these are all aggravating features.
OK, here's another aggravating feature. He battered two women.
Yes.
Right, he battered two women, two female police officers.
In the course of their duties.
In full public view.
Yeah.
The footage of that WPC with her nose broken, with blood pouring out, is extremely harrowing. And people will say straight away, Sir Michael, hang on a minute, in mitigation, they took into account his immaturity. His immaturity.
Yeah,
A 20-year-old man beating up two women, he's given time off of his tariff for immaturity. That doesn't smell right.
Well, the reality is, Martin, that any person under the age of 21 who appears before the courts is treated as less than fully mature. The courts still differentiate between...
Do you think that looks like a less than fully mature man battering two women?
I personally don't.
Look at it.
Look. But the way the courts actually deal with offenders, because you still go to a young offender institution if you're under 21, and that's the way the courts deal with these things. But yes, they will always look at the age of the offender and also whether they pleaded guilty or were found guilty, and whether they have previous lists of convictions. These are the sorts of things that, in any case, the court will look at, whether it's a murder case or a shoplifting case. But it does turn the stomach to see the video in this footage, and to behave in this way in an airport seems to me to be against uniformed officers in the exercise of their duty, as well as members of the public being involved and children witnessing. These are all aggravating features. I suppose the question one has to ask oneself is, if the maximum penalty is 5 years, when would you get more than this?
OK, so Michael has put a full analysis to this incredible sentence been handed down. 3.5 years for this brutal assault that left a female police officer with a broken nose. Incredible. That's more coming after the break. Let's get more analysis after your weather forecast.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Drivers on the M6 northbound in Cheshire East face delays after a collision closed one lane. The M5 southbound in North Somerset and the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent are congested. In Calderdale, a broken-down vehicle on the M62 eastbound causes 50-minute delays. The M11 northbound in Essex is congested, and the A9 Dornoch Bridge has strong winds affecting driving. On the trains, hot weather disrupts journeys between Watford Junction and Milton Keynes Central, while East Midlands Railway faces major disruption. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard.
This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. on this sizzling Friday afternoon. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking show ahead. Here's what's on your show today. Top story, breaking news this past 10 minutes. A man who assaulted 2 female police officers and a member of the public at Manchester Airport in July 2024 has today been jailed for 3.5 years. We'll have full analysis of that breaking news story throughout the rest of today's show. And today the Labour Party has announced plans to expand the use of barracks to accommodate more than 5,000 asylum seekers. GB News will today speak with outraged locals and exclusively reveal how refugees welcome Labour is dumping asylum seekers on seats where the Labour Party has zero chance of winning. Are they all NIMBYs? No illegals in my backyard, hypocrites.
It's already a national issue in my view. And if you haven't got a camp next to you, they'll be living next to you or they'll be on your doorstep. So I don't think anyone can be free of this. The only people who are free are the politicians.
And more immigration chaos today as the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood looks set to water down visa rules for care workers. Now that could mean that 280,000 Boris Wave care workers plus their dependents will now be eligible to stay in Britain forever from next year. Is this a taste of what might come on the man that some people are calling Open Borders Burnham? And a Nuneaton mum who could only eat potatoes for 40 years has finally been cured of her food phobia by hypnosis. Rachel Hall chowed down on chips, jacket spuds, roasties and mash from the age of 2. But now she's found a new love, melons and bananas. I'll be joined by the reformed spudaholic for today's finale. Breaking news for you this afternoon. Mohammed Amars has been sentenced to 3.5 years after being found guilty of attacking 2 police officers and a member of the public at Manchester Airport in July 2024. Harrowing footage you can see on your screens now. Let's cross straight to Sophie Reaper, our reporter, who is outside Liverpool Crown Court for us. Sophie, the story has just broken. Bring us up to speed.
Well, Martin, of course, there was the retrial of both brothers, Mohammed Amars and Mohammed Ahmad, which took place here at Liverpool Crown Court last month. But ultimately, that jury was unable to reach a verdict. And his Mohammed Amars' elder brother, Mohammed Ahmad, who was sat in the public gallery for today's proceedings, he walked free. However, the younger of the 2 brothers, Mohammed Amars, was found guilty by a different jury of 3 different counts of assault by a jury last summer. And that was what today was. Mohammed Amars was facing that sentencing, and he ultimately was told by the judge presiding over proceedings here, Justice Flewitt, that he was receiving for those 3 counts a total of 3.5 years in prison. Now, in the last few moments, we've heard from the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, Sir Stephen Watson, who said this incident began after a man was headbutted in a public place in front of his family. Our officers were responding quickly to precisely the sort of outrageous criminal behaviour that rightly offends the public. In undertaking their duties, officers were met with resistance and violence, followed by online vilification, condemnation and adverse commentary from those who do not have the full facts. It is vital that officers get the respect and support they deserve for routinely putting themselves in harm's way to protect the public. Assaults on police officers are sadly all too common. 35 of my officers are assaulted every week across Greater Manchester, and such incidents can never be justified. I'm particularly grateful to those many members of the public who have contacted the force in order to pass on their best wishes to the officers affected. And finally, whilst the criminal trial is now concluded, we are consignant of the ongoing IOPC investigation into the conduct of our officers. We will continue to cooperate fully with this investigation, and we look forward to its conclusion in due course. Now, that reference there to the IOPC investigation, Martin, it's worth saying that in court today we heard from His Honour Justice Flewitt that the two police officers, PC Cook and PC Ward, who were assaulted by Mohammed Amars, are not the subjects of the IOPC investigation. In fact, they're actually acting as witnesses in that investigation. Of course, we will bring you the conclusion of that in due course. But just to reiterate, today we've heard here at Liverpool Crown Court that Mohammed Amars, who was found last year guilty of 3 counts of assault at Manchester Airport back in 2024, has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison.
Thank you very much, Sophie Reaper, there for bringing us up to speed outside Liverpool Crown Court. Thank you very much, Sophie. Back to Westminster. I'm joined by Sir Michael Ellis, the former Conservative Attorney General, and also by Olivia Utley, our political correspondent. You know, Sir Michael, these are the kind of cases that really test the public's patience and their knowledge base of how sentences are handed down. So I'm hoping throughout the rest of the show you can help me to make sense of this, because when you see the video evidence that, let's be frank, shocked and appalled the nation. When you see the female, I don't know if we can get some of that footage going again, particularly harrowing, the image of the WPC. You know, if you recall, the chain of events was set off by this individual headbutting a man in a Starbucks in the airport. He claimed had racially abused his mother on a flight. Then police officers attended, doing their job. 2 of them happened to be women. And when you particularly see the police officer who was assaulted, Lydia Ward, she had a nose, let's be honest, I'm sorry if this is harrowing, she had a nose flattened. She was covered in blood. And she gave a statement today where she said that he used her as a punching bag. Mohammed Fahir Amars has been jailed for 3.5 years. I'll come to you in a moment if you think that's a sentence that's fitting. I don't, but you're the expert. When she gave the victim impact statement in Liverpool Crown Court today, Sergeant Ward stared directly at the 21-year-old assailant and said, "You changed my face." The mother of one accused Amars of showing not 1 ounce of remorse and criticised him for playing the victim when misleading footage of the event prompted accusations of racism. That conversation against Sir Mike. We've already seen the Henry Nowak footage today. Accusations of racism. She said she's 5'2" and 8 stone. This woman, Sergeant Ward. She looked into his eyes today and said, "Take a good look at me. I want you to know." I want you to know that I am not weak. No matter how this has affected me or impacted on my life, I will not allow you to see me as weak. You use me as a punch bag, but I'll get back up and I will show you how strong I am. You know, she is every ounce the hero. Yes. To him being every ounce the maggot. What sort of bloke does that to a woman? What sort of bloke does that to a police officer? And I want to ask you now, Sir Michael, about if you think 3.5 years is a fair sentence for what this man did.
Well, look, the way sentencing works for assaults in this country, Martin, is that it's graded on the basis of the injury. So the first thing that happens is this a common assault, maximum penalty 6 months? Is it an ABH, actual bodily harm, maximum penalty 5 years? Or is it a GBH, when the maximum penalty can be unlimited?
How is that not GBH?
it was categorised as an ABH because of the nature of the injuries, which in this case was a broken nose.
That's not grievous.
It tends not to be categorised as a GBH.
A woman having a splattered nose isn't grievous. Well, that strikes me as challenging.
Yeah, well, that's a decision that the courts have developed over the course of many years. ABH tends to be those sorts of injuries that are very small broken bones, like a finger bone or a nose. GBH will tend to be very more critical injuries, perhaps a broken leg or a broken arm. It's not an exact science, but the first thing that militates the sentence is what the charge is in any case. Here, the maximum penalty for an ABH is 5 years imprisonment. Usually what gives the biggest cut in that sentence is if a person pleads guilty. Here that didn't happen, there was a trial, so that means that mitigation isn't available. Then one looks at whether the person who's before the court has any previous convictions and how old that person was. If they're over the age of 21, they won't have any mitigation about age. If they've got no previous convictions, they'll have mitigation because they have no previous convictions.
So something that I also find very, very challenging about this case, and we spoke about this just before, and again, this is just breaking news now. I'm just trying to digest this in real time and help our viewers and listeners digest this in real time, because violence against women is always very, very challenging.
Yeah.
To hear that Mohammed Maz has been handed down a mitigation against his sentence because of his immaturity, people, I think, will find astonishing. Here's an individual who's set off the chain reaction by first headbutting a Kuwaiti holidaymaker at a cafe in the arrivals area of Terminal 2 at Manchester Airport. He started this chain of events.
Yes.
The police officers were then called to do their job under testing circumstances, and then the mayhem broke out. So how can there be any mitigating circumstances about somebody's immaturity when at the time he's 20 years of age?
Because the way the law views age is in categories below the age of 21.
That's absurd.
Even
He's
18...
a full-grown man who's battered two women.
Well, I'm inclined to agree that the mitigation for age is minimal in this case, if it exists at all. We don't know how much mitigation the judge would have given to it. He might have taken a month or two off because he was under 21 at the time, if he was under 21. But if you're under 21 in this country and you go to prison, you go to a young offender institution. And that's the only category, really, where the 18 to 21-year age range is a factor. Look, there were multiple punches delivered here. There were 2 elbow strikes, apparently, 1 kick. This was against firearms officers. Look, there are many countries around the world where these defendants would have been shot because they were assaulting in the way that they were with firearms officers present. So it's a horrific incident, and I'm not, obviously I hold questions about the sentence myself.
OK, so Michael, we're going to go through this for the rest of the show and try and make sense of this. And let's get to my next guest now to try and help with that process. And that's the former Detective Chief Superintendent of the Metropolitan Police, Kevin Hurley. Kevin, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Kevin, I know it's always incredibly challenging for police officers when you see other officers attacked like this. And I'd imagine to see a woman so violently assaulted is especially challenging. When you hear the sentence passed down today, 3.5 years with time off for immaturity, do you think justice has been served today?
Well, I hate to say it, but I think, thank God, that's at least what he got. Because the sentencing guidelines being what they are in the UK, and we've just had them quite well explained by your present guest, 3.5 years is not, frankly, in police parlance, a bad result. I mean, the maximum's 5 years. The judge could have perhaps, if he'd wanted, applied each of the sentences consecutively, but then probably been appealed under the sentencing guidelines. Unfortunately, judges are constrained by the Sentencing Council guidelines, which is why we see these kind of sentences being handed down. We'd all like to see him get 5 years, because clearly he deserved that. What he did is so far out of order in the kind of place we all go with our families on holiday, attacking armed police officers, attacking a Kuwaiti tourist. As your previous guest said, he's quite lucky in a way that he wasn't shot. But, 3.5 years for an ABH, I'm actually thinking, well, this is a result. I was expecting to get between 6 months and 18 months here. Such is the weakness. So I think the judge has done well within the limitations. of the Sentencing Council. What we need to be looking at here is a government intervention and saying, if we are serious about dealing with violence from all sectors, and in particular violence against women or violence against emergency services workers, we need to put an additional militating factor, if you like, into sentencing that will increase it because of who the person is that they've actually assaulted. So, you know, I put my hand there and say, actually, as an ex-cop, and I'm thinking 3.5 years, that is not bad. You know, because we see people being sentenced for rape under the sentencing guidelines. We saw them only the other week. I was on with some of your colleagues discussing it. They didn't even get custodials because of their age. And the poor teenage girl left traumatised for the rest of their life. What this needs is a change to the way in which sentencing guidelines are given out to judges, and if need be, allow judges who have to sit through all the case and are in fact learned lawyers to form a view and sentence on the sentences that Parliament intended. So in this case, 5 years is the maximum for actual bodily harm. Good, let the judge use that. But actually, you raised a good point, Martin. Why wasn't he charged with grievous bodily harm with intent, which carries up to a life sentence? The issue there is the Crown Prosecution Service, again, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is they work on the basis, can they certainly get a conviction? They will go for the softer sentences because they think juries will go for it.
Kevin, first of all, thank you for you know, saying that you, as a copper, and I know, you know, you speak from the heart about your servicemen, your comrades when something bad happens to them. I know it matters to you greatly. So thank you for helping me to understand that you think this is a fair sentence, because I don't. But thank you for, you know, trying to help me calm down a bit, I guess, because I just see women being assaulted like this, and it really, really upsets me. It really, really bothers me, and it also bothers me to see such a disrespect for law and order. And it's a common thread through so many of the things that you and I talk about on this channel, month in, month out, year in, year out. Can I also talk, Kevin, about the response from the general public? Because protests happened in the street. Black Lives Matter placards were on the street because one of the officers who came in to intervene, you know, he kicked him in the head, right? As far as he was concerned, you never know in that circumstance, Kevin, if the guy is armed, what's going to happen next? You've seen him take out a woman. You're gonna disarm this guy in any way you can, right? That's your job.
Yeah, I would have done worse to him, to be honest, because clearly that guy knows how to fight. He knows how to fight. He's a street fighter, and he's a right handful, to use police parlance. He's taken out 2 female officers. He's fought male officers, been a real problem. So that guy has come in and he's had to take him out and make sure decisively he was stopped. To be honest with you, I would have tried to kick the top of his head off, because I am not going to allow anyone to take my firearms in those circumstances. And of course, they don't quite know what they're dealing with. Is it just a straight act of violence against a member of the public, which it turns out it was, or is it indeed a terrorist event? When you start in an airport playing up with armed police, do not be surprised if you're subjected to extreme violence. I always worked on the basis, and I still do, frankly, better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
No, Kevin Hurley, you make a very, very powerful point. You know, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Thanks for your time at short notice. Former Detective Chief Superintendent of the Metropolitan Police, Kevin Hurley. Let's get back now to Sophie Reaper, who's outside Liverpool Crown Court for more of the details coming out of this case. Sophie Reaper, the details are coming out thick and fast. What's the latest?
Well, Martin, in the last few moments, we've heard a statement from the head of the Crown Prosecution Service's Special Crime Division. That's Malcolm Mahaffey. The statement says this was a violent incident in front of families in a busy airport, which left a police officer needing medical assistance. The CCTV footage and witness testimonies demonstrated to the jury exactly how the incident unfolded. It clearly showed the defendant acted unlawfully, leading to the sentence today. today. Now, let's just take a look at that sentence, Martin, just to try and break it down a bit for our viewers at home, because 42 months may seem a bit of an unusual amount. Of course, there were 3 separate charges of assault faced by Mohammed Amars. 2 of those charges, count 3 and 4 on the original indictment, involving the 2 Greater Manchester police officers, PC Ward and PC Cook. For those charges, the judge explained that count 3, which was the count faced against Lydia Ward, in which Mohammed Amars attacked her so violently he actually broke her nose as he punched her down to the floor. Justice Fluitt described that that particular count was going to be the lead count, and that for that, Mohammed Amars was receiving 40 months in prison. Now, the count 4 on the indictment was 12 months. That was the charge regarding PC Ellie Cook. Now, those 12 months, however, are being served concurrently by Mohammed Amars, which means they're being served at the same time as the 40 months I just described. Then on the count 1 on the indictment, which was the headbutt delivered at that Starbucks in the Manchester Airport terminal, for that, Mohammed Amars received 2 months, which he won't serve concurrently. He's going to serve that consecutively, which means it's added on top of that 40 months, and that is where we get 42 months in total that Mohammed Amars will now serve in prison. Now, today at Liverpool Crown Court, he actually appeared via video link from HMP Liverpool, but he did hear a statement from PC, now Sergeant Lydia Ward, I should say, Sergeant Lydia Ward now. She spoke directly to him, facing the monitor where he was appearing from HMP Liverpool. And she gave that victim statement in which she said to him, I've never been so scared. It was absolutely terrifying. Every time I look in the mirror, I am forever reminded of what you did to me. She also describes that she now has a scar on her nose, which she had to have reconstructive surgery under general anaesthesia, Martin, actually, because of that broken nose that Mohammed Amars gave her. She said, and this was the final thing of the victim statement given by Sergeant Lydia Ward, and it was very, very powerful. She addressed Mohammed Amars and said, I want you to know I'm not weak. You used me as a punching bag, but I will get back up. You deserve no more of my time. And that was all she had to say.
Thank you very much indeed, Sophie, there for bringing us up to speed some of the harrowing details. Let's get back to our next guest now. I'm delighted to be joined by the Labour Party activist Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. You may have overheard our previous guest, Kevin Hurley, as a former copper. He thinks the sentencing seems fair, 3.5 years. I don't think it seems fair. I don't think it seems harsh enough for beating in 2 women. What's your take on today's ruling?
I think the whole debacle, absolutely disgusting from start to finish. What really angers me, Martin, and I've said this before as well, is just the way when this story first broke, when footage was leaked, it was so one-sided, and it just showed these bullies, these violent thugs as victims. And then, Martin, what really made me angry was that they then went on a media campaign with their celebrity lawyer, Ahmed Yaqub from Birmingham, playing the victim card up and down. They went, they went on TV, they were giving interviews, they were talking to Pakistani press and all sorts of media to say, we have been the victim. And thankfully, it was when footage, a longer version of what happened, footage was then released by the police that showed start to finish how the brawl started, their part in it, and, their claims of being the victims. I mean, this could have sparked social unrest, it could have sparked riots. Honestly, it was just such a horrible situation. So I'm so glad the truth came out. And also, because I've been following this case really well, I mean, it angers me that we had to have 2 trials, 1 trial and 1 retrial. I mean, the evidence was there. It was clear as night and day, that these men were guilty. So they cost the taxpayer a lot of money, and they forced the victims of their violence to come and give evidence twice. So, yeah, I mean, as I was listening to Kevin Hurley and obviously your previous guest, I just thought, what a brave lady, Sergeant Lydia Ward. She came, she gave evidence, she's become a new mum as well, so she talked about her baby. But these men just put a stain on basically all Pakistanis, all Muslims in the country.
Thank you for saying that, Aisha. I mean that. Thank you for saying that, because...
I mean, so many, lots of people agree with me, by the way. A lot of people were sending messages like, what the hell is this? This is outrageous. How dare they behave like this? And also, Martin, in the longer clip, I don't know if you're going to play it again, but you will notice while they were attacking the two police officers, the two female police officers, they also hit their mom. Their mom got the back end of one of their I think it was their punch, and she collapsed. So the idea that they would do this not only to random strangers but to their own mum as well. I mean, we were horrified as members of my community, and then we were really angry because, like I said, they tried to portray themselves as victims. And thank God there was a longer CCTV footage was available. Otherwise, they would have carried on with this, crying about being victims.
Aisha Ali Khan, again, thank you for being honest and thank you for being forthright. I really do appreciate that. I want to rewind to the start of that. Seriously, I do mean that, darling. I really do. Thank you. Let's go back in time to when that footage was first leaked, and we only saw a glimpse of it, didn't we? We initially didn't understand about the backstory, about the headbutt that he was found guilty of today in the Starbucks on a Kuwaiti tourist. That bit didn't come out. The bit where he was violently assaulting two WPCs here, one of them clutching her nose, blood pouring down her face, having her career dream shattered. That didn't come out. What came out was the end bit, where you can see he's prostrate on the floor now, and the officer, let's face it, was stomping him on the head. Now, as we heard from Kevin earlier, that was because the officers were fully aware of the build-up. They'd seen this violent, explosive temper. They'd seen two of their comrades, two of their colleagues being violently assaulted, and he did what he did to control the situation. But there were protests in the streets. As you said, this became a racially charged protest. Politicians came in. Andy Burnham, about to be our next Prime Minister at the time, said he understood the concern, understood the deep concern surrounding the video. Yvette Cooper waded in. Wes Streeting, then the Health Secretary, said it was the right that the officer had been suspended. It became very political. And isn't that the wrong thing to do? Politicians charging in, taking the side of the guy we now know to be the violent, misogynistic abuser. But they did that, and that was a mistake.
I think because this is why I keep saying, because the evidence at that point showed a man prostrate on the floor, another police officer kicking him, even though he was in handcuffs by then. Of course, people are going to come to that conclusion. So it was so important to have the longer clip. So we've seen the context, and I have been on a number of shows, and I've always argued that I don't blame the police officer for kicking him violently. He shouldn't have done. But if you look at the context and look at the previous sort of like a minute or so, because that even though it was a very short clip, would have felt like a lifetime for those people involved, especially the officers that were assaulted, people trying to contain the situation.
I just need to interject and just to clarify, because there have been complicated parallel cases and trials. We're talking about one of the brothers today and his guilty charges. Just to clarify, both brothers were acquitted of the other charge after 2 retrials, and they said they acted in self-defence. Now, that's a separate thing. But today we're speaking specifically about this one individual, Mohammed Azaz, and the assault on 2 female officers and the gentleman who was assaulted in the Starbucks cafe there. But Aisha Ali Khan, we have to leave it there. But thank you again for your honesty. I really do appreciate it. And our viewers and listeners really will do, and they respect you for that. Thank you. Aisha Ali Khan. Now, still to come, we'll also be crossing to Crowborough, where protesters are gathering against government plans to house asylum seekers in a nearby barracks. We'll be live from the streets of Crowborough here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camila Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight on the unpredictable. What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to time. It's 5:30 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, 5 former military bases are now to be used to house more than 5,000 asylum seekers, immigrants, as the Labour Party ramps up its efforts to shut all of the asylum hotels by the end of the Parliament. And one of those is in Crowborough. I'm joined now by GB News' national reporter Isabel Fekulak, who's been in Crowborough for us all day. And Isabel, I understand a protest is developing there. Bring us up to speed.
Yes, good afternoon again, Martin. As you can see behind me, protesters here starting to gather, a flash protest following that announcement today that Crowborough is included in the Home Office's extension of these sites, saying that the use of the barracks here to house asylum seekers will now be extended until 2030. All day on GB News, I've been speaking to residents who say that they're angry, they're in disbelief, and one particular interview struck me very much. It was an interview with a 14-year-old girl, Lily Holding. You saw it earlier. She said that she was afraid to leave school and that she's walking home in a different direction. Take a look.
I'm scared that, whenever I come out of school, they're going to be across the road watching everyone come out. And, I feel like one day me or other people my age are just going to be watched by these men.
And that feeling gives you a sense of insecurity, and you're at the age where you want that bit of freedom to go out and enjoy yourself. You can't do that.
No, I can't. I have to walk the longer way to school now. I can't walk into the town much anymore by myself. I have to really go with friends or parents, and I can't even really go to the park unless there's my friends' parents there.
Well, lots of outrage here in Crowborough. Of course, they protest every week against the use of that site. And we have protesters here again today. Hello, guys. Tell me what's made you come down today following this announcement.
Yeah, good evening. So, after the announcement, we're going to have an extension in Crowborough with unvetted, undocumented men in our community.
and also the news of a man that's been accused of heinous crimes in Germany all in one day, we just thought enough's enough and we had to come out today and show we're not having it.
And what are your main concerns relating to the camp and its extension now to 2030?
So our main concerns are the safety of our citizens, the safety of our women, our children. You know, like, you only got to put the news on, GB News, to see every week is something else. You know, there's another atrocity happens, and we feel that it's only a matter of time before it happens here in Crowborough, and that's what we're out here doing. We're out here standing up for our own town, our own community, our own people.
And you've been doing it week in, week out. Do you feel like, despite these weekly protests, your voices have been ignored maybe?
So we've been protesting here for months, you know, and I was one of the original organisers. I stepped away back in March to go and concentrate on other things, but I think really and truly, no, we haven't been listened to. You know, we're not getting listened to around the country, and it's about time the government did start listening to us, because the only way to stop this is by stopping the boats, you know, and that's very easy to do, and you just need to start actioning that.
Thank you very much for coming on. So as you can see, people gathering here more and more by the second. We'll see how big this protest turns out, but until next Sunday, this Sunday coming, there'll be a bigger protest here in Crowborough and every week and so on until they feel that their voices are heard.
Thank you very much indeed, Isabel Feckin there for joining us from Crowborough. Just want to say again, a huge amount of respect to Lily, 14-year-old Lily Holding there. It takes a huge amount of bravery to go on national TV and just explain that you're scared about travelling to school. You know, she's not a great deal older than my daughter, and it just is. It's a very, very concerning situation when kids are afraid to walk to school. It really is. Now, the Border Security and Asylum Minister Alex Norris has said this. 20 more hotels have closed and hotel numbers have more than halved since their peak. Instead, we're moving asylum seekers into ex-military sites that are a far cry from the hotels the last government left us with. This is a system being brought back under control, and we will not stop until the job is done. Well, still to come, Britain has been forced to urgently import more electricity from the European Union to avoid power shortages during the record-breaking heat wave. And guess what? They're robbing us blind. 75% hike in our bills. Once again, Brussels has got us by the shorts and curlies. Meanwhile, here's your traffic and your travel update.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M90 northbound is restricted between junctions 9 and 10 due to flooding. The M62 eastbound in Calderdale has 2 lanes closed because of a broken down vehicle, with delays easing by 6:15 this evening. Expect 10-minute delays on the M11 northbound at junction 6 in Essex, and 20-minute delays on the M6 northbound between junctions 7 and 9 in Walsall. The A303 eastbound in Wiltshire has 15-minute delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces disruption between Watford Junction and Milton Keynes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do still have a red extreme heat warning across parts of the southeast today, with an amber one going out for eastern areas tomorrow. It's because, well, whilst there is fresher air coming into parts of the country through the next 24 hours, eastern areas are clinging on to that hot air, and residual heat means it's going to stay uncomfortably hot and humid for a little while yet. Another big talking point, however, the thunderstorm risk across northern parts of England, Northern Ireland through this evening, and across the bulk of Scotland overnight. Some torrential downpours, frequent lightning and hail. They could cause some problems. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, just some showers pushing into parts of the southeast through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Still warm and humid here, temperatures staying above 20 Celsius, perhaps slightly fresher, more comfortable towards more northern and western parts. Then tomorrow morning, a bit of a cloudy start across much of Scotland. Some glimmers of sunshine across the northeast, perhaps. But yes, a lot of cloud, a few outbreaks of rain, not as heavy, not as thundery as what we're going to see through the end of the day and through much of the night. Across Northern Ireland, a few shower bursts of rain, particularly towards the west, perhaps brighter further east. And down the western side of England and Wales, bit of cloud, bit of rain further east. Largely sunny, some decent sunshine, but a few showers perhaps lingering across parts of East Anglia in particular. Through Saturday then, we are going to stick with a bit of a northwest-southeast split, so northern and western parts staying pretty cloudy. There will be outbreaks of rain at times. Further south and east, largely dry, largely sunny, but a few showers will start to push into some southeastern parts later on in the day. It is still going to be pretty hot across some eastern parts of England as well. Temperatures not as high as they have been, but nonetheless getting into the low 30s Celsius. A bit more comfortable, a bit fresher towards the north and west. There is more showery rain to watch out for through the end of the day tomorrow, particularly in the southeast. Here it could turn heavy, maybe even thundery at times. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late-night TV shows. We're giving you a front-row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's about 20 to 6. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News on this sizzling Friday afternoon. Now, during that heatwave, Britain has been forced to urgently import more electricity from our friends in the European Union. Now, it's to avoid power shortages during the record-breaking heatwave because air conditioning meant our grid couldn't cope. Now, the National Energy System Operator, which manages the grid, issued a rare emergency power supply warning after soaring temperatures triggered a slump in solar energy, with panels struggling to work in the hot conditions. You couldn't make it up. It was too hot for solar panels. And so we had to import energy from Brussels. It's not April the 1st, it happened. I'm joined in the studio by The Economist, and that's Diana Furchtgott-Roth. Diana, welcome to the studio.
Wonderful to be with you.
You can't make this up. When it's too windy, they turn off the wind turbines. When it's too hot, they turn off the solar panels. And the winner, as always, is Brussels.
It really is. It really is. And here we have a situation where we don't have any wind. We have so much heat that the solar panels aren't working. We need about 36 gigawatts of power. We're importing about 7 gigawatts. And thank goodness that the people in Brussels are our friends and are actually giving us that power because they have a lot of heat too. They have record hot temperatures too.
Yeah, but they charge us through the nose. I mean, apparently the energy costs went up 75% for the same megawatt hour in a week. Because, of course, when there's high demand, they can dictate the price. And what this surely shows us, Diana, is that we need to be energy sovereign. We shouldn't be reliant on Brussels when it's too hot or when it's too cold. We need our own energy base.
Exactly. We have Jackdaw, we have Rosebank that could be approved today. We have the Gainsborough Trough, which is natural gas in the Midlands. That could be approved too. That could come online too. We have so much natural gas. Plus, we have all the North Sea oil. We don't have to be importing it from Norway. We could be getting it ourselves out of the same little pond. And that would be British jobs, British income, British taxes, instead of buying it from Norway.
Now, of course, the government would say it's not as easy as that. You know, switching on Jackdaw, switching on the North Sea would be expensive. But, I mean, is it just expensive because, for example, of the punitive tax regime we have?
Well, that's one reason, but there are private companies that want to do this, and it's Ed Miliband who has the pause. They are waiting to go ahead, and it's up to them to decide whether it's going to be worthwhile. They say it's worthwhile, and it's our government that's stopping them.
I think a lot of people will be especially mind-blown by the notion that it's too hot for solar panels.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously?
Exactly, yes. 25 degrees is the ideal for solar panels. After that, they lose efficiency. Yes.
So, Michael Ellis, it's like the wrong leaves on the line for the railways. Or, as you say, you know, they actually have to turn off the wind turbines, the windmills, as Donald Trump calls them, if it gets slightly breezy, you know, slightly above a certain wind. It's a crazy state of affairs. And frankly, it's because of virtue signalling. That's why it is, because we want to be able to say, or at least Miliband wants to be able to say, oh, we are not producing this oil out of the North Sea, but we're asking Norway to produce it from the same place. It's just their responsibility, not ours. Meanwhile, we're paying through the nose for it. I have to say, you know, I agree with what Diana's saying. It's a crazy state of affairs, and we're going to have to do something about it because the British people are suffering through taxes.
Diana...
And they're also suffering because they're hot today.
And cost of living.
Yes.
Exactly. And yet, we not only find ourselves in a situation where it's too hot for solar panels, it's too windy for wind turbines, but we're also hearing that air conditioning has been described as right-wing.
Yes.
Yeah, seriously, if you have air conditioning, you're almost a fascist.
Well, apparently Camden County Council has been tearing out air conditioners from people's homes, not allowing them to use it. Yes, as well as forbidding new air conditioning to come in. And only 4% of Britain is air-conditioned now as it is. So imagine if more people wanted to have air conditioning, it would be even a bigger demand on the grid. We'd need more of the natural gas. But the good news is there is gas here. We can use it. And perhaps Andy Burnham, as King of the North, is going to decide that people really do deserve air conditioning and deserve the jobs that come with energy production.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, because just like most of the mystery man of Manchester's policies, we don't know what they are.
Well, there aren't any. That's why he needs extra. That's why he needs a few weeks before he takes over, because he's got to invent the policies he hasn't thought of yet. I mean, that's clearly the case. He apparently was asking if he could have till September, but Keir's lot were like, no, you can only have that if there's a contest. But he'll need to invent a few policies. But look, you know, it's really crazy how we've allowed this sort of suicidal empathy to affect the cost of living, house prices, and all the rest of it. Only 4%, as Diana's saying, under air conditioning. But, you know, we'd actually be more productive as a country if we were cooler.
OK, thank you very much indeed to you, Sir Michael Ellis, and also The Economist joining me in the studio today on this very spicy, hot afternoon. Diana Furchgott-Roth, thank you very much indeed. Now, a spokesperson from the National Energy Systems Operator has told GB News this: Great Britain's electricity system remains secure and reliable throughout today's exceptional weather. Now, coming up next, you will not believe your eyes, a Nuneaton mum who could only eat potatoes for 40 years has been cured of her food phobia by hypnosis. I'll speak to the former spudaholic next. That's here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And it's Father's Day. I don't know if my dad's up yet. If you are, happy Father's Day.
He's already texted.
Is he?
He's tuning in.
Mr. Reaper, good morning to you.
Sunday, well, speaking of Sunday lunches, he'll be having a roast pork joint later, courtesy of myself.
Good.
Cards and gifts are a big part of the day, of course, but it's also important to remember that there is more to it than that.
Yeah, because it's not just about one day, is it? Actually, it's like, what do dads do? And healthy fathers, a healthy sort of father-son, father-daughter relationship builds strong families, builds strong communities and helps build a strong country, actually.
Well, that is why mentoring the next generation matters more than ever. So take a little extra time today, make sure you do, to appreciate not just the fathers or the grandfathers or the uncles out there, but any strong father figure that you may have.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome back to Breakfast, 25 minutes past 6. And breaking news this morning, the TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson has revealed that he's been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer in an emotional video.
In the scenes, he's telling his co-stars Caleb Cooper and Charlie Ireland, his land agent and his farm manager, and they're both devastated, as you can imagine. You know, it's a huge bombshell to drop on them. He's only 66. He's made no secrets that he's maybe not lived the healthiest lifestyle. After the heart problems, he bemoans having to eat Greek yogurt and kale and whatnot. But following this, I think he's going to have a complete lifestyle overhaul even further, and just fingers crossed the treatment proves effective.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good Afternoon Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Hello there, Emily and Tom. Yes, some breaking news in the last few moments from Kensington Palace regarding our future king, Prince George of Wales, the oldest son of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The short statement from Kensington Palace reads, Kensington Palace can confirm that Prince George will attend Eton College in September. That news just coming in from the royal household in the last few moments. This clearly is, well, perhaps not surprising news for those in royal circles. Eton College, the most prestigious school, arguably in the country, educating 20 prime ministers and, of course, Prince George's own father and uncle, Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as 2 Dukes of Gloucester, the Duke of Kent and Prince Michael of Kent as well. So that confirmation just coming in from Kensington Palace, £63,000 a year it costs to send a child to Eton College.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:49 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a former spudaholic who could only eat potatoes for 40 years has been cured of her food phobia through hypnosis and has now established a newfound love for a new addiction: bananas and strawberries. Well, let's now speak with the teaching assistant and the former potato addict, Rachel Hall. Rachel, welcome to the show. An incredible story. Your love of potatoes started when you were, what, 2 years old, and 40 years later, you decided to get rid of the things.
Yeah, it started when I was a toddler. Even baby jar food, I spat it out from that very young. Didn't like it, couldn't swallow it, just kept gagging.
So you kept gagging on food that was a bit out of the ordinary. I mean, a lot of toddlers do that. My 2 did, but you thought you'd grow out of it. Your parents thought you'd grow out of it, but you never did, Rachel. You never developed a taste for anything more unusual than potatoes. So potatoes was an easy choice for you for 40 years.
Yeah, that was the main part of my diet, yeah.
And so you had them in every format possible. I mean, after a while, Rachel, let's be honest, it must be quite hard to come up with a new way of having potatoes. But tell us about the potatoes you had.
Oh, it can be quite boring, really, and dull and bland. It was potatoes, mash, roast, jacket potatoes, chips, wedges, in any form, really. But that was main part of my meal.
And Rachel, did this put a wedge between you and your family?
Not really, but having younger siblings, they kind of thought, well, she's not having it, I'm not having it anymore. But they kind of got used to it with me. But my other half is very similar, so it's not too bad, really.
So I suppose in that respect, Rachel, you'd be a cheap date. You know, if you go out down a pub or somewhere, you know, what do you have? I'll have Jackie Spud, please.
Yeah, it's a bit boring, really, because you don't really go out with friends and family unless I know there's something on the menu that I'd eat. But now, I mean, it's opened so many doors.
So Rachel, you know, it got to the point where you realised something had to be done, and hats off to you. You know, you went to see a hypnotherapist and you were diagnosed with a proper food phobia. Tell us what happened next.
Going to see David Kilmurray has been absolutely the best thing I've ever done for myself. Going to see him and having hypnotherapy, it's opened so many doors, and he's turned my brain around from that I can't do it to I can. And now working with him and trying new things, I can eat a variety of colourful, flavourful food now, which is amazing.
So, you know, it's taken like...
It's thought would have happened.
So you've gone from just being a sort of spudaholic and you were afraid of having anything else, and it's not a laughing matter. It was making you gag, it was making you anxious. It's a serious condition.
Yeah.
Tell us now, what's a dream meal now? No potatoes, presumably.
Oh, a dream meal now. I mean, just being a role model for the children as well. Standing in the playground, eating fruit, vegetables, even in this hot weather, salads, cold sandwiches with salad and just meat on it that I wouldn't normally have eaten.
And, you know, it's great that you've moved on. It's great that you've become a role model. But do you still enjoy a good bag of chips?
Now and again, yes. Why not?
Well, you're only human. Look, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us today. And as you can see, I myself have skipped my jacket today. It's a bit hot. Thank you very much indeed, Rachel Hall, for joining us, former Spud aholic. Now, don't go anywhere next, because it is Jubes & Co. Tonight is handled adeptly by Dawn Neeson. Dawn Neeson is in control of the show tonight. It's been a hugely emotional news week with the guy put in jail for battering the copper. Seriously, a lot to talk about. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you at 3 p.m. on Monday. Take care.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon, I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We do still have a red extreme heat warning across parts of the southeast today, with an amber one going out for eastern areas tomorrow. It's because, well, whilst there is fresher air coming into parts of the country through the next 24 hours, eastern areas are clinging on to that hot air, and residual heat means it's going to stay uncomfortably hot and humid for a little while yet. Another big talking point, however, the thunderstorm risk across northern parts of England, Northern Ireland through this evening, and across the bulk of Scotland overnight. Some torrential downpours, frequent lightning and hail. They could cause some problems. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, just some showers pushing into parts of the southeast through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Still warm and humid here, temperatures staying above 20 Celsius, perhaps slightly fresher, more comfortable towards more northern and western parts. Then tomorrow morning, a bit of a cloudy start across much of Scotland. Some glimmers of sunshine across the northeast perhaps, but yes, a lot of cloud, a few outbreaks of rain, not as heavy, not as thundery as what we're going to see through the end of the day and through much of the night. Across Northern Ireland, a few shower bursts of rain, particularly towards the west, perhaps brighter further east, and down the western side of England and Wales, bit of cloud, bit of rain further east. Largely sunny, some decent sunshine, but a few showers perhaps lingering across parts of East Anglia in particular. Through Saturday then, we are going to stick with a bit of a northwest-southeast split, so northern and western parts staying pretty cloudy. There will be outbreaks of rain at times. Further south and east, largely dry, largely sunny, but a few showers will start to push into some southeastern parts later on in the day. It is still going to be pretty hot across some eastern parts of England as well. Temperatures not as high as they have been, but nonetheless getting into the low 30s Celsius. A bit more comfortable, a bit